All right, y'all. Welcome to another edition of All Politics of Local America's number one political hip hop radio talk show. Well, y'all know if it is Friday, y'all know it's time for All Politics of Local if it's 6 o'clock. But more importantly, y'all know if it is the third Friday, y'all know it's time for the Mayor's Forum with our beloved brother, the one and only. We definitely know he's the people's champ now. He's 3-0. Our brother Mayor Raz J. Baraka. Of course, we're gonna try and get into some things tonight. We've only got him for 30 minutes tonight, so we're gonna be moving a little fast and try to hold him back. All them good old boys say, "Hold my mule." We're gonna have to hold the mayor's mule when we get him to talking on some things in a minute.
Yeah.
But of course, y'all know it's gonna be heated tonight. So we've got a good show. The mayor's gonna be up first. And Zaid, you want to tell him what's gonna happen next?
Yes, at 7 o'clock, we've got Joe Marchica from our Revolution, Mercer County, who's going to talk about the lawsuit around the issue of the party line in local elections. It's an old system that Jersey has, and it's very particular to Jersey that most states do not have.
Right.
And they are among a number of forces that are actually going into court to try and end that system. Later on at 8:30, we have Nkechi Taifa, one of our pioneering warrior lawyers on the question of reparations. The mayor and I were just in the streets a little while ago for a local rally around reparations. Who's going to talk about some of the things happening on that front. Some very healthy things are happening on that front. And this is Juneteenth weekend. I would hope most of us who are observing Juneteenth are including reparations as a necessary component of that as we try to move forward on this question called freedom, justice, and equality. And of course, at 8:30, we will have our number one DJ in the universe, the great DJ Rhino, will give us the state of hip hop to close us out.
All right.
Brother Zaid, hey Mayor, hey Ed, if y'all haven't said it, let me say happy Father's Day to each of you. This is a big weekend. It's a Father's Day weekend, Juneteenth weekend, but I want to start off by saying happy Father's Day to each of you guys. And thank you for all the spectacular things that you do in your own right.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Well, Mayor, we're gonna turn it over to you. Of course, this is the Mayor's Forum. There's some things we want to get into, but of course, we're gonna let you, do your thing, and we'll jump in when we fit in.
Yeah, man, it's all good. We're happy to be here always. And like you said, it's Juneteenth, Juneteenth weekend, and prayerfully everybody is celebrating Juneteenth. It's interesting that we get a Juneteenth holiday, but they passing laws locally where you can't even study Juneteenth. So
Make it plain.
Ain't that something?
Yeah,
Make it plain.
It's just really, just tells us where we are. Still, we're still fighting to even talk about Juneteenth.
Yeah, they kept it from us then. They try to keep it from us now.
Yeah, it's insane, and the whole question of reparations that we're talking about is appropriate to talk about around Juneteenth, as well. We just have to keep pushing. The thing is protracted. It's not for the faint of heart. You just got to stay at it, and continue to push and push and push until we get what it is that we need on all fronts. So that's basically what it is, right? More than anything else. And there's a lot of people who we fighting like we can't even get the Harriet Tubman statue in Newark. It's so bizarre.
What?
Yeah, we
You got to tell us about that, because I was getting ready to reach out to the artist for it. Tell us about that.
Oh, and I thought that was a done deal. Yeah.
So did I, man.
It's going to be a done deal, but the state board, they had this hearing, and all these people jumped on to tell us why it shouldn't do that. That we're just desecrating the memory of Italian Americans. That we are changing history. Not only don't want us to rename Washington Park to Harriet Tubman Square, they don't want us to put the actual monument of Harriet Tubman in the statue, saying we're encroaching upon the history of the area. And they have Newarkers who got on, Newark residents, who got on of different nationalities, who got on and was opposed to it as well, So we just really in a backwards place now, and I just, I spoke and said what I said. And, then you have people who were trying to say if we put that, maybe we should have something about Columbus too. And they reached out to Mayor Sharp James, who got on and said the same thing. Like if we should put something memorizing, remembering Christopher Columbus and Harriet Tubman. Well, that's not really what we want to do, right? And we're not going to do that. So I just want to make that plain. That ain't gonna happen. These people. The interesting thing is like they're saying we're encroaching upon their history, but we're being left out of history altogether. And they say, oh, these are some Native American trails that was encroached upon initially by settlers, right?
Come on, man. Come on.
The reality is, and it's nothing that, they want to make it about Italian Americans, and it isn't. Christopher Columbus, Italy didn't even exist when Christopher Columbus was sailing. There was no Italy. He was from Genoa. Like there was no Italy then. And he was a settler. You just have to be good with that. He never came to the United States, never came here, and is responsible for some of the very horrific acts done to Native Americans and colonists, by the way, if they read history there. And if you want to celebrate him, go celebrate him in a private place. We don't have to celebrate him publicly. And these statues are being taken down as an act of history. It's history, an explosion in history that caused all these statues being taken down all over the country.
That's right.
That's history itself. There's active, moving, developing history, right? I'll put an Italian American up. Viola Luiso, Sacco and Vanzetti.
How about that?
I'll put a statue of Viola Luiso up quick. Who got killed by the Ku Klux Klan, white supremacy. Who went to the South to organize
fighting for our people in the fight for the right to vote,
and was murdered by white supremacy. That's a statue you should put up. You want an Italian American? We'll put that up. We'll put up Sacco and Vanzetti. Those are statues that we can put up. Vito Marcantonio, the congressman from Harlem. Like, come on. I mean, and these people are actually real Americans, real Italian Americans. These are not
who lived amongst us.
These are not fictitious people.
They're good things. Didn't kill anybody.
Right.
Didn't oppress or exploit anybody.
Exactly. And that's and Monday we're gonna have a press conference, but I'm gonna say those things. But just the pressure not to even put a statue of Harriet Tubman up. And then they all start off with Harriet Tubman is a nice lady. I want to do that. She should be honored.
Wow.
Yeah, just not by you.
Wow.
It's almost like something out of the Twilight Zone. And I shouldn't be surprised, honestly.
And they could see that Christopher Columbus did not discover America, but we're gonna keep teaching that he did discover America. It's so bad.
And then they got a nerve to run down the history of George Washington. And they start talking about the Continental Army and his presence in Newark and sailing the Passaic and all of this stuff and the fight in the Revolutionary War. We were slaves in the middle of that. So why are we conveniently left out of that? Like, you're going to say his history, but we're left out of that. Not only were we slaves, he owned slaves.
Wow.
But so May, you're talking about the homicide law. That's not happening. That's what you're talking about. That's not happening.
I'm talking about George Washington.
No, I got you, but I'm saying
we're changing the name of George. We're changing the name George Washington. What did I do? There I go. We're changing the name Washington Park to Harriet Tubman Square, and these people really don't want to see that, So.
And I was just playing on that. If they were actually to fully implement the homicide law, all of that would be a part of it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because that's telling the whole history.
Yeah, absolutely. But they're not interested in that. They're not interested in that. They were more interested. They would leave a base on the park with no statue on it before they put Harriet Tubman up.
Wow.
What time is your press conference on Monday?
At 11. Yeah. So that's they would put a base. We arguing with them. I'm telling them on the meeting, there's a base. There's not even a statue there. They're concerned about, is there another place in the park you could put the statue? Like, we don't even want it in the space with Christopher Columbus.
Wow. This is incredible, man.
No, it's real. This is real. This is what we're doing. These are Democrats.
It's the same Democrats that won't give us the police reform bills.
That's right. These are Democrats.
You know,
Yeah.
and what's a real nightmare about that is that we even have to fight with some of our own people, man. You know what I mean? To
Yeah.
try and explain this to, and
Hey,
that
listen,
shouldn't even
man.
be necessary.
That's why it's difficult because they get our own people involved in it. We all people been miseducated, and we just want to be self-hating and self-destructive. I mean, it's just too much that you have to even argue with people that look like you about why it's necessary to study leave Harriet Tubman up there, and why should we have to placate these folks? When they put Christopher Columbus statue up there, did they say
They ain't ask us. That's right.
they didn't ask nobody? Did they ask us to do that? Ask anybody their opinion about any of that? No, they
Wow.
did it. They did
Wow.
it. They just did it. Like, so now they're trying to hold the law over us, like historical preservation, and using that under the veil, as a veil to hide their racism, using history as a veil.
Well,
And,
speaking of that, something was just brought to my attention. The building over on over by the Y. I'm not having a senior moment. I can't call the street out, right? In which
Rector,
the
what?
Black Power Conference took place in '67, right after the rebellion, right?
Right.
Your father still had the bandage on his head, right?
yeah,
That
yeah.
NJ wants to take that down,
Mm.
right? And then they have an alternative to do that. They don't necessarily have to do that to meet whatever objectives they need to make in terms of accommodating people coming in to check out the concerts that they check out and the other things that they check out at NJ. So
Yeah.
our history has always been expendable.
Oh, it is. And they're not
You
gonna
know?
have no meeting. They're not gonna have no historical meeting about that. So
If you remember when they were building NJ, there was a discovery of
African
a burial ground that included some African and indigenous ancestors. They didn't want to deal with it, right? But we made an issue about that,
Right.
and in the end, it wound up, we got a plaque out of that,
Yeah.
But it's unnerving. It's unnerving.
It is, man. And you
right?
should have seen
Our
these people.
indigenous relatives call Columbus his advent the beginning of their end, right? And it's the beginning of their genocide, right?
That's
Why
right.
are we celebrating that in the 21st century? Why do
Right.
we even have to apologize for something like that? That's crazy as hell.
And they got a nerve to bring up Native Americans in a discussion as why it should stay, like the history. Talk to the present day Native Americans who don't want Christopher Columbus statue anywhere around them.
Anywhere.
Right.
Anywhere.
So I don't understand. Well, I do understand, but the point is we still have to struggle with these people. And they want to show you over and over and over again. But the reality is they want to show you that you're not in charge.
Mm.
That's really what it's about.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
You're not in charge.
Those monuments and statements of power.
Yeah, exactly. You're not in. This is our stuff. You can't move our stuff and replace it with you.
Mm.
History is moving. It is not static. History is moving. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, like as we develop, new things happen. We have a right to put our faces and our likeness in the public so people can know that we were here in our history and our children can understand that.
Right.
That we struggled and fought back against this thing. That we didn't just quietly walk into the dark. That we struggled and we need monuments of our folks up.
That's right. That's right. That's
right. So when you celebrating Christopher Columbus and hailing what he did to the Native Americans and celebrating George Washington and hailing what he did to Africans, we want to at least put one of our sheroes up to say, well, she fought all of this stuff.
That's right. That's right.
And it's only right. Yeah. And these people that they got the right person though. So they're gonna go back and forth. Ultimately, man, and I'll say it, we're gonna do it anyway.
Right.
Like so, the lawyers told us they may try to make us put the Christopher Columbus statue back. I said, now that's absolutely not happening. That ain't gonna happen. So, I mean, That's these people crazy. We may be fined, we may be fighting in court. It may turn into a crazy public thing over the statue of Christopher Columbus. And they got these organizations.
Well, you know what? Then the community has to mobilize and organize and call out white supremacy for what it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. I mean, I think we were all not expecting to be talking about this tonight with so much other stuff to be talking about that we need to be talking about. Like, I mean, can we at least talk about why we got to halt the advance of the right wing? It's 2022, and these folks are going buck wild, right?
They are going buck wild, 100%.
But what value? What value is it if we control now the mayor's office and we control the city council and we can't even put up a statue? What the hell is
because
that?
they use these little commissions and offices and state government and county stuff, as a way to hold you in check. And as long as those things are, that's why we really need to organize statewide and just be loud about all of the stuff that's going on, man. It's just easy to be a Democrat in New Jersey. Anybody can say they're a Democrat. You got Republicans who are really Democrats. You got ultra conservatives who are running, in the middle of all of that, simply to win seats. It's absurd what's happening here, man. And they just put all of these things in place to check us, right? The county government has a bigger budget than the city government, and all of the resources. That's not even being talked about the way it should be talked about, right? All of this stuff, it's so much that we still have to fight against, man.
This is just absolutely nuts, man. But man, listen. Two things because we don't have a lot of time. But two things I want. First, I want to bring you back to something, man, because you said this though, man. During COVID, man, when we were going through it, and one of the things you would point out, and when I was listening to, your conversation, on the the mayor's update, with your guests with the police, one of the things you were talking about, they was talking about what's happening with young people. And you remember, man, just to bring your attention back, you said this, man, and people all over the country now are saying it. You had said none of us really knew or really know what the effects was going to be on young people who were locked down for 2 years. So it's no surprise why these young people are out of control and gun violence and all of that stuff is going on. Let's be honest about it, man, because even older folk are having psychological problems, man.
It's out of control. Totally out of control. And it's elevating. It's elevating. There's at least half a dozen or more 13-year-olds right now that were arrested or caught with guns that are home with bracelets on their ankle right now. Last month or so. You got 7-year-olds bringing 9mm
guns to the school.
It's we're in a place that we haven't been in a minute, and in our communities is exploding all over the country. If you look at places like Philadelphia, Baltimore, Toledo, it's really, really bad. At least we have some community partners that are out here trying to work collectively to help us deal with some of this stuff. If you're in parts of the country where they're not even letting you do this, it gets to be really crazy. And there is really no services for them.
Yeah. I'm glad you go ahead. No, go ahead. Finish your thought. I'm sorry.
No, yeah. That's why we have to invest. And you got people here, local folks here who are trying to stop us from giving money to these local organizations to do this work.
Man,
absolutely.
See, but man, what you said this when we were going through COVID, right? So none of us knew the effects, what was going to happen with these kids, what was going to be going on. And now we're seeing it, and we're seeing it's out of control. And when you say it's all over the country, remember, I was having a conversation with A.T. Mitchell. By the way, he's one of our community partners.
I'm trying to get him on. I'm trying to get it. I've been reaching out to him, man. I'll go back with it.
Oh, yeah. I'll hook that up, man. But man, you know what? Because you know he's the new czar now in New York. You know, working with young people and
Yeah.
guns and all of that.
Uh-huh.
Because you know, and he wanted to come on the night. I told him we only had 30 minutes with you, man. You know what I mean?
I called him last week for last week's show. He didn't get back to me in time.
I'll set it up, man. We'll get him on with the man
Oh,
next
absolutely.
month. But man, one of the things he was saying is that you know now that he's in charge, he said, "Yo," he said, "Listen, man," he said, "I don't give a damn what them white folks care about." He said, "We going for our young brothers, man. We going for our people, brother." You know, and I think we gotta have that attitude, man, because nobody know how to save these kids but us, man. And
We
you
need to
remember
get
that old saying,
to
man,
it.
nobody's gonna save us but us.
Yeah, no, that's right. And really, don't nobody want to save us but us.
Yep.
That's right.
These people, they think violence is because you just genetically
Something wrong with you.
barbarian,
That's how you are.
and
You need to be managed.
and the system itself and the environment is not creating this problem. In fact, you created the problem. So that's what they believe, and the answer to that is just lock you up, throw away the key, and do whatever they can do to keep you out of the public sphere. So we definitely need to we definitely need to create opportunities for these organizations to get to our young people, get to our families. That has to happen. And it is going to happen. I'm not like pessimistic about it. It's going to happen here and locally. We're going to make it happen. Just like we're going to put that Harriet Tubman statue up. That's going to happen. Like, I don't care what these people say, think,
Right.
feel. It's going up.
Right.
They didn't want us to put Mayor Gibson's name on Broad Street.
Right. I mean, who are these people?
Hey, you know, before they put his name up, I was fighting for your father's name to go up.
But you know what? I think the clear thing. I think there's a moment where all of these things sort of intersect. Whether we're talking about the attacks on women's bodies with Roe versus Wade, whether we're talking about the incarceration of young black males, whether we're talking about even on down to the statue and all of that. One of the things that I noticed was when we looked at, and I was reading the book, the Osiris Papers, where Ray Winbush and a bunch of other scholars were presenting Francis Cress Welsing for the 21st century. I've been telling people the conversation is not about necessarily women's bodies in particular. The conversation is not just about the statues in particular. The conversation is about white fear of removal.
That's right.
Absolutely.
And in that book, in the Osiris Papers, Chuck D has a chapter where he talks about the Fear of the Black Planet album and what that meant. And hopefully me and DJ Rhino can get into that. But I think it's interesting that a lot of these things, in Charlottesville, what were they yelling? You will not replace us. Mm-hmm. In their minds, it's like, if they wake up one day and it's a Harriet Tubman statue where Christopher Columbus used to be, and there's a Ras Baraka where some other racist used to be, and there is all of these things, then functionally they're living in a black planet, and they're afraid of that.
And Chris, when they was doing their tour on January 6th, they were saying, this is our house. Yeah,
you will not
all of that.
These anti-abortion laws is because the rate of children being born from white women versus the rate of children being born from women of color is what it is. They're trying to make Becky have kids. That's what that is. So, I mean, for me, all of these things seem very connected. Like, and there's a larger theme underneath all of that that's bigger than the particular issue that's getting discussed at any particular point in time.
No, absolutely.
No argument here.
I just think that these folks are not really at the base of it is about power. They're not they're not going to relinquish power. They're not interested in doing it. You have to take it. Power concedes nothing without a demand.
Man,
they're not going to give it up.
Never will.
They feel like if you got the numbers, that ultimately you're going to elect them out. The thing with Trump showed them that it's possible if we all come out like that, to the point where they were willing to steal it back if they had to.
Yep.
These people these extremists, these oligarchs, these fascists are taking it to the level that we haven't seen in a long time. It's really about the loss of power, more than anything. The ability to protect themselves and their family and their way of life, which has been built on oppressing other people. That's basically what it's been. And if we if they can't maintain or sustain that, and they feel like they're being pushed against the wall, then they're gonna lash out like they're doing. And the cultural wars is simply like the things, the education and the things that justify in their mind them being in charge and doing to you what they think should be done. We're supposed to be okay with history being told absent of us.
Right.
Then when we say something about it, we're encroaching upon their history. Yeah, we are, because you're telling the story. You're telling the story. Now, when other people tell the story, it's being told from a different lens and different perspective. And I see the same history differently than you. So while you're talking about the Continental Congress, I'm talking about slavery, because your perspective of George Washington is different from my perspective.
That's right. That's right.
You're talking about George Washington as a liberator. I'm talking about him as an enslaver. And it's different for us, right? And so who gets to tell their story is based on who is writing the books and who's publishing them and who has the power to put it out. So if I put the stories of our people out, if I get to say Harriet Tubman, if I get to take George Washington's names down, take Christopher Columbus' name down, and put our names up, to them, that is an encroachment on their authority, on their power, on the history of who they are. They don't give a damn that he had slaves. They don't give a damn that Christopher Columbus killed people. They don't give a damn about any of that. Why do they even have the gumption and gall to speak publicly and say that we should be celebrating these people when they know all of this has happened? It won't. Hell, they wouldn't. If they wanted to put you on a board, they stopped me from putting people on boards because they had past criminal records 20 years ago. So if you can't even be on a damn board for a record that you did selling CDS 20 years ago, how can we memorialize you? And you slaughtered hundreds of people, and you imprisoned, enslaved hundreds of people. It's ridiculous, and that meter has to be changed. And the problem is all of the people that's in authority that looks like us, we don't want to ruffle no feathers or create no issues, because Jesse Jackson said it a long time ago. We get our votes from one side of the city, but our money from another side.
Right.
And it creates a problem.
Yep.
It creates a real problem, right? And I think really that's the base of all of the stuff. This thing coming ahead is really, I think is on time, because it's going to force New Jersey to deal with what's going on, because it's going to become a major issue. You know why? Because we're going to put the statue up.
That's right.
Come on, man.
That's why it's going to be an issue, because we're going to take that base down and put the statue up anyway. That's what we're going to do. And it's going to cause a major problem, and it needs to. We need this. We need this.
We were talking. We were at the rally, and the Assembly Speaker Chris Coughlin is well known for saying, we like you guys and the whole question of reparations, but if just don't use the word because it makes people feel uncomfortable. Well, you know what? After some 260 years of straight slave labor, 100 or more years of Jim Crow terror and whatnot that we had to live with, right? You need to be made uncomfortable about all of those wrongs and about you're not willing to at least address the honesty of the history in order to straighten that out. Yeah, some people need to be made to feel uncomfortable.
Right. Join our discomfort.
Come on. Come
on. But you know what's scary? What's scary for me, what's scarier for me though is certain opposition is probably predictable. I'm sure when Mayor Walker is getting dressed and getting ready to go to the meet, he's like, okay, I gotta fight with them, her, and him. Okay, got it. But then when
Johnny T. Negro
looks like him show up,
Johnny T. Negro,
that's right,
and they go, well, I don't want.
That's right.
Right.
Christopher Columbus never did nothing to me. That's the real problem is that's the fight that we shouldn't have to deal with.
Yeah.
That's
shouldn't.
To me,
there's class struggle too now.
I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm glad that I was born when I was, because if I had to count on my generation, we would be on the back of the bus right now. I'm telling you right now, we would be on the back of that Joker right now. I'm talking about we would have been so happy. And they got AC on the bus now too. Oh yeah, we'd have been extra comfortable. Like
you got people that's they a little miseducated. Then you got professional traders, man. They just
yes,
Wow.
professional.
Wow.
They get paid to be a trade
Well, Boyce Watkins call them Negro naysayers.
Yeah, I got to get out of here, y'all.
All right, man. Yep.
But I appreciate
Thanks,
it, man.
Hey,
Appreciate
man,
you coming
you
through,
know the
man.
Got a
Aries
lot
man
to
wear
catch
that
up
blue.
on when you come back. That's for damn sure.
Yes,
I'll
sir.
be
We
out
got to
there
keep it
Monday.
going.
Hey, man, you know us Aries men wear that blue well.
I know that's right. Yes, sir. All right.
All right,
That's
man.
your Father's
Peace,
Day,
brother.
sir.
All right,
Peace.
all right. All right, so we got that gives us look at just popped in. I didn't know you was popping in.
Sarah's in the building.
Hey, we got to share with Larry because I don't even know if Larry know what the man just shared with us, man.
Oh, I
About
heard the
Harry-
whole thing.
No, he
Wow. Okay.
So let's
I've been
stay in it then.
I've been listening
Yeah,
since 6 o'clock.
Let's
Okay.
stay in it then. Let's stay right there.
And what you haven't talked about, I was listening to Joe Madison, and this, as Chris was saying, and I would hear people calling in, and Joe Madison would get so upset because they would start using the words that that the Trump people want you. This was, well, let's arrest him for having a tour that wasn't scheduled. No, it wasn't a tour. And I mean, like, why are you taking on the language that they want you to take on and repeat it? It's amazing. We have to stop conforming.
But Larry,
I like
we
Joe
gotta-
Madison. I like
but
Joe
Larry-
Madison.
Larry, we got to organize, man. We got to go to that press conference, man. We got to support
Absolutely.
the man.
Yeah, I definitely.
At that press conference on Monday, I'm gonna put that on my calendar, man.
Y'all, the problem is, look, white supremacy been, was, and will be. It's the Negroes we got to get up. We got to be on one accord when we show up. Like, am I more mad? Genuinely, am I more mad at Donald Trump or Clarence Thomas?
I'm mad at both of them.
No, but one of them.
Trump need to be locked up, and Thomas need to be kicked off the court.
One of
Neither
them.
one of them get a pass.
No, I'm with you, but one of them just.
Tom Ass was always Tom Ass. We knew what we were getting when we put his ass on the Supreme Court.
Well,
It
Alien
was divide, Chris.
Anita tried to help us.
He won't let him know.
Something's
There
going
wasn't
on.
nobody united around no Tom Ass class when he came up. There was divide in the black community over his.
No, Leon Higginbotham wrote a whole letter to him in the law review. But I'm just saying, I think like he irritates me in a special way. Like he does something when I see him, my eyeball itching.
But his wife is the gangster though. That's the one.
But think of
She need to go
that's
to
right.
jail with Trump. Y'all
That's right.
follow?
Think about
You
that.
know-
Think about his wife was a part of was actually part
Come
of
on.
the insurrection, man.
Listen. She was probably listening to that hippity bippity skippity and got that.
And now they claim they got her text messages where she was going back and forth with one of these
Absolutely.
senators,
Absolutely.
Listen,
which is absolutely incredible. But the question is, the question is what are they going to be able to do about it, right? They putting this display on. I don't think it's no surprise to us. We know Donald Trump is a criminal. We know he's a liar, right? But the question is what's going to happen now? What's going to happen?
look, Donald Trump thinks that Andrew Jackson was sad about the Civil War, even though he died 16 years before it even happened. So I mean, he is what he is. I think
His national heroes too.
the problem for many of us, I think, and I've learned this over spending a lot of time with all of you, is that most people just don't even know they should be upset. Like most people, I remember I heard Reverend Sharpton say once. He said, when people ask me what's the hardest thing about being a black preacher, they might say, well, you think it's the protest, and I'm paraphrasing it, like you think it's the protest, you think it's the death threats. He said, no, the hardest thing about being a black preacher is preaching the funeral of an irrelevant Negro. He didn't help nobody, he ain't fight for nothing, he ain't stand for nothing, and now he dead, and I got to put him in heaven some type of way. I'm certain that there are people in my family that would much rather have me die like that than to die at a protest. I'm scared to death of what my family gonna say if they get the mic. I'm scared to death. I sure hope y'all get involved. I'm just because he was always a rebel rouser. Was always upset. It's bad. We could get so much more accomplished as we would as black folk be upset with being oppressed.
But you know what it is though. It is a level of consciousness. One of the things I heard, Larry, from Kim and I had spent some time with Roundtree and her son when they announced their new foundation, and one of the things I heard, it was awesome, man. We had a great time with her and LeVar as they announced the new Madam.
She probably listened. We love you, Louise. We're looking forward to for that happening for you.
But she was sharing, some of the things about how difficult it was, right? And that's why Mitty ought to be congratulated, right? How difficult it was to get people out to vote, man. And we're talking about in the city of Newark, right? And I realize, people come out of COVID. I realize some of the psychological and financial issues that people are having with the current, climate going on with gas prices and all of that. I get it. But if you just heard the mayor was talking about, the people he's fighting with, but he's also fighting with our people, right? And so if we look at that and we understand that what these people are clear about, Larry, what they are clear about, they clear about political power. If they're not clear about anything else, because they understand the people that control the politics in the community are actually the people that control what decisions are being made. That's why the mayor said they're now using the law, right? Because they know they don't control the political base now in the city of Newark, but now they're holding the law over them. And so at this point in our lives, I mean, what is it going to take for us? I mean, I'm all about political education, but what is it going to take to educate our people just about just the common decency based around morality, based around doing what's right with our people in our community? That's to you, Larry.
Well, you ask a lot there, brother. But let me say, first of all, that congratulations to the mayor, Mayor Baraka, and on the victory of his team. I'm glad to see that the mayor has been elected to a third term. And I'm glad to see he has people on the council who are going to support him, because the years ahead are going to be very difficult.
Yep.
We are in the throes now. The backdrop against all of this is the decline of the American empire. The difficulties, the stresses, and the strains that we see going on around us right now have a lot to do with the decline of America and the movement of America from being a unipolar hegemon to a world situation of multipolarity. In other words, there was a time when the United States, because it was sitting on a secure economic base and relatively secure political structure, was able to call the shots. It was the shot caller for the 20th century after from the end of World War. See, before World War II, Britain was the preeminent power in the world. They used to say the sun never set on the British Empire. Mm-hmm. And then, after World War II, the Europeans, basically almost destroyed themselves. And the United States, sitting on this side of the Atlantic, emerged as the preeminent power. And so the U.S. was very strong economically, very secure, very stable politically, so we could call the shots. But the world isn't, and this is something that the mayor was saying, because I was listening intensely to the first 30 minutes. The situation is ever changing, you know, and at the end of World War II, we had a situation where the former colonies of these European powers were now moving toward their own independence. And all around the world, the cry was for liberation. I remember when I used to study assiduously Mao Zedong, he used to say something like, nations want independence, but the people want revolution.
That's right.
And all around the world, people would I mean, it was in the air, and it was even here. I mean, it's hard to describe. I feel like a time traveler now. I'm getting so old, you know, that I can't even put in words what it was like in 1960, when people believed heart and soul that we were in a revolutionary situation, you know. And in one sense we were, in the sense of the destruction of American apartheid, which was called Jim Crow. That was a kind of revolution of its own, but it was a limited, very limited revolution, in the sense that, you know, we were bound by structures of white power down to the local level. I mean, imagine that the Central Ward had a white representative. You know, the Central Ward, or the Blackest Ward, had a white representative until 1960. You know, it's hard to believe, right? That the South Ward had a white representative. You know, the South Ward now, which is kind of like the base of Black politics in Newark. And so these changes, you know, were made, and we believed everything was possible. But then we began to confront a certain reality that was obscured by, you know, this racial structure that we were dealing with. We thought that we could solve all the problems if we just controlled municipal government. Not understanding that municipalities exist within an economy, you know, are subject to forces that are outside of the municipality, even the political forces. People don't understand cities, towns, villages. These are creations of the state. They are legally bound to the state. Now, when I'm talking about the state, I'm talking about like the state of New Jersey, state government. They cannot overrule. You know, just as the states are subject to federal law, municipalities are subject to state law. A lot of this, you know, some of us did understand it, but, you know, the yearning was so powerful to end white domination that was priority one, and that we really couldn't, you know, talk about a whole lot of other stuff until we got that. Then we got that done. Then it began to become clear. I mean, one book that I would recommend that people should read is Bob Kervin's book on Inside Newark. That's a really good book, you know, in terms of understanding this situation. So we moved into the 21st century, and now, you know, America is can no longer be the sole shot caller. I mean, they're already saying that China is the #1 economic power. This is why, you know, there's war in Ukraine. The war in Ukraine is not just about Ukraine. The war in Ukraine is about China. They got to deal with Russia to get to China. And America is so crazy right now that they're trying to fight on two fronts. They over there in Ukraine trying to challenge Russia through a proxy war. And at the same time, Biden is over in Taiwan talking about we'll do whatever we have to do.
Mess. That's right.
Right. Like we're closer to World War now than we've ever been. But this, what we're seeing internally, you talked about Trump and, you know, what's going on with these hearings and everything. This is what happened when empire declines, because when empire declines, it turns in on itself. the contradictions that it was able to export to other places come back home. The chickens come home to roost. And so now you see a political instability in the United States that none of us could have ever imagined. You know, we were sitting here a year ago this time, and when people were talking about fascism and all, people looking at us like we was crazy. Oh, Larry going off. That's Larry going off. What did Chairman Thompson of the January 6th committee, and I mean, this is another thing to look at. I mean, it's not going to change the world, but the fact that the chair of the January 6th committee is an African American should not be lost on people. Remember, the chair of the Watergate committee to investigate Nixon was a man from Newark, a white man named Peter Rodino, who the federal building is named after in Newark. He was the congressman for 18 terms, 36 years of the 10th congressional district. And then when he died, Donald Payne Sr. Took over. But what did they call it? They called it a coup. I can remember when people were debating, oh, don't call it a coup, call it insurrection. Don't call it insurrection, call it a riot. What did Judge Carter call it? He said this was a coup looking for a reason, looking for a theory. Benny Thompson said this was a coup. It was a fascist coup. Mayor Baraka was just on here talking about fascism. There's a fascist movement in this country, but it's part of a worldwide, a global fascist movement. The parallels between what is going on now in the 20th century to what was going on in the world in the 1930s and 36 and 38 prior to the beginning of World War II, the parallels are striking, because fascism in that period was a worldwide movement. Remember, it was called the Axis because it was Germany, it was Italy. Many people think fascism started with Hitler. It didn't start with Hitler. It started with Mussolini. Hitler was a student of Mussolini, used to keep a picture of Mussolini in his office until he became the big cheese.
Yeah, don't forget.
But fascism is an Italian word. So you had Italy, you had Hirohito in Japan. It was a worldwide movement. And now we see this worldwide movement here in the United States. And yes, one dimension of it is what people were talking about, because one of the characteristics of fascism is its racist character. It was racist in 38 and it's racist today. And it's based on fear of the other. You know, in Germany, it was Jews. You know, in Italy, it was some other people. And here today is Black people and anybody that's not white and Christian, you know, and homophobic and so on and so forth. You know, and you asked the question, what should we do? We should demand the arrest of Donald Trump. Because one of the problems is, see, if you study history, one of the reasons that Hitler came to power is because people were compromising with Hitler. I mean, Hitler didn't seize power in Germany. He was elected. He was elected. And what did Judge Ludwig say before the congressional committee the other day? He said the danger is ever present. This is the conservative federal judge, an icon of conservatives in America, said that the danger, it's more dangerous today than it was on January the 6th. They are not finished. There are more chapters of the Proud Boys right now on this day. There are more chapters of the Proud Boys than there were on January 6th a year and a half ago. So we should be demanding the arrest. We should demand that Merrick Garland do his job. They have enough information now to indict Trump. And that, because if they don't indict these people, you think 2020 was a big problem. Wait till 24 gets here, because they already putting their pieces. It's like a chessboard.
A puzzle. It's like a puzzle, a chessboard. Yeah.
That's right. You can see them right now. They're electing secretaries of state that are Trump.
Overturning how states can overturn.
Listen. More than 100 people just ran and got elected in Republican primaries who are all Trumpists. That's right. Who are all still saying, with the January 6th committee hearings going on, still saying that Biden lost the election, that the election was stolen. So they're positioning themselves now for an even greater confrontation in 2024. I'm sorry I cut somebody off.
No, that's Chairman, and we have to, and I don't know. I'm sorry, it's so dark, the sun is, but
You're
Mayor
a vampire.
Baraka, yeah,
You
Turn
can't
that,
get the
turn that
sunlight.
light on, Donna.
I can't,
No,
it's
she
not
gonna
going to
catch
help
on
because
fire
I
if you
got to.
turn the light on.
Mayor Baraka just said, he said one thing, that he can't, in Newark, New Jersey, Mayor Baraka can't appoint people to committees because they got a record from 20 years ago. We're talking about he can't do it right here in Newark, New Jersey. We got to pay attention to that. But something somebody did 20 years ago, and it's about putting people in position on committees so that he cannot get his agenda to move forward. It's these small things, like all these little, like you said, pieces are coming together. When he just said that, like, what committee can he appoint somebody to? That shook me. And I'm just like, they are positioning things from the local level all the way to the top. And like you said, 2024, it's gonna be a problem. And as I said before, for people to come on a Black national radio show and start talking about January 6th was a tour taking on Trump's words, no, it wasn't a tour. Call it for what it is, and people need to go to jail. And if we accept that, and that we saw it with our own eyes, and then everybody gets away with it, what's going to happen next?
Right. And see, we cannot see ourselves as divorced from this. This impacts Black people. Just because we weren't doing the coup or whatever doesn't mean, it doesn't affect us. Because these people, their agenda, the agenda of the fascists is an anti-Black agenda. I mean, it's really anti-everybody. But they've already shown us that one of their targets is Black people. They don't want no Black history taught. They're going out. See, now people understand just what a revolutionary demand Black history was. I can remember a time when Black people were saying, and this is after Black Power, I can remember in the 90s when people were saying, some Black people were saying, oh, we don't need Black history, we need STEM. We need science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Yep, and we do need that. But you don't take the stem and throw out the apple. You have the apple and the stem. You have the fruit and the stem that it's on. And now you understand, now you can see. They don't want the truth taught. They don't want any history that's going to tell what really happened. The very thing that Mayor Baraka was talking about, Christopher Columbus, that will be outlawed. You think it's just a matter of him appointing people? If these fascists come to power, that will be outlawed. In Florida, they got a tip line on teachers. Teachers caught teaching Black history, drop a dime on them. You think I'm making this up? This is going on right now in Florida. In Florida, they got a tip line on teachers that are teaching what they call critical race theory, which they know is not critical race theory because it ain't taught in elementary school. It's Black history. They don't want the truth taught. So on one side, they got a tip line against teachers. And on the other side, the governor of Florida just formed an election police. Did you hear what I'm saying? An election police.
Wow.
Has just been formed in Florida. The governor's own, listen to me, the governor's own personal election police to not just the police, listen, not just to police the polls on election day, but in the meantime, go door to door with armed people with guns going door to door, asking Black people about their registration. See, that's fascism. That's fascism.
And remember, Chairman, his original ask was he wanted his own army. So he didn't get his army, but he got his election police.
But that is his army. That election police is going to report to the governor. His own SS. Remember how Hitler had the SS? Well, that's his SS. reports to the governor. And this is how all these red states want to move. See, we think this thing that's going on with the January 6th and all of that is not our concern. It is our concern, because the whole goal of it is to, in fact, reverse everything we got in the last 75 years. That's the goal of it. That always was the goal of it. And its origins go back to at least go back to the election of Goldwater versus LBJ, because that's the period that when white folks began to make the switch, when they were ready to say to hell with the Democrats, because the Democrats voted for and passed the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act, we going with the Republicans. That's when the switch was made. Because here we are sitting on Juneteenth when the party that overthrew the Confederacy was the Republican Party. But over time, and moving from the 19th century into the 20th century, a switch was made, right. You know?
Right.
And so, because LBJ said it, he said when he signed the Civil Rights Act in 1964, and he ain't no hero, I'm just relating some facts to you. When he signed the Civil Rights Act, he said, I lost the South. I've lost the South. And that's what happened. You know, and they've been moving further and further and further to the right.
Right, that's right.
You know, this is not something that started with Trump. Trump is just the latest. It's like driving a car. You driving down one road at 25 miles an hour, and then you get to another road, which is Trump. Now you can drive at 60 miles an hour. Right. Just a matter of acceleration, you know. But this thing, I'm telling you, it affects us, and we can't divorce ourselves. You know, we have an idea that somehow we live on some type of little, like Amiri Baraka Sr. used to talk about Negronia. Zaid, remember?
That's right.
Amiri Baraka Sr. used to talk about Negronia.
Yes.
Like we in some kind of little black republic. Mm-hmm. You know, like Haiti inside the United States. We in Negronia in our own world. No, this where we are is fully integrated into the American polity and the American economy. And quite frankly, we're not going to be able to solve these problems just at the local level. But we must have people at the local level who will speak out and who will fight for justice, like Mayor Baraka is trying to do. He's trying to do that.
But Larry, that's why. But that's why he said, Larry, that we've got to start right here in New Jersey, right? That's why he said that we need to just start and don't give a damn about what they think, right? But just start this in New Jersey so that people around the country can pick up on this.
Power and control. Yeah, right where we are.
Right. So I think that what it comes down to is that we and Larry, if things are as bleak as you're talking about, just somebody in Florida organizing an election police, that's absolutely insane.
Google it. Google it.
It just Google. It doesn't even reach the mind in such a way that someone really has the authority to do that.
Just Google it, brother. You'll find the articles in the New York. You don't have to read the Black Panther Party or the Daily Worker or the People's World. Any of them radical. It's in the New York Times and in the Wall Street Journal. It's all there in front of us. It's there. What did the judge say? People really need to go back and listen to this most recent hearing. He said they're doing it in the light of day.
That's right.
That's what makes it so fantastic. That's why people couldn't believe us when we were telling them. There's a brother, his name is Darryl Lamont Jenkins. Yep. Y'all need to have him on sometime.
Yeah, I just got Darryl's number a little while ago. Yes,
he's been following these white nationalist, white racist groups here in New Jersey for over 20 years. And I can remember Darryl contacted me late either in 19 or early in 20. And he was saying, Brother Larry, these people are up to something. But they didn't just start planning that in January. That thing was in the works for months, for months, and he was like telling me, and I was like, what? And he was like, yes, they're planning something big. He didn't know exactly what, but, and that's why people need to go to this thing the governor is having on Tuesday. Do you know about this summit that the governor is having on hate crimes on Tuesday at Rutgers? What time is it, Zaid?
10 o'clock.
At Rutgers, Newark, the governor is having a summit on hate, on bias and hate crimes. Something, I don't have the exact title, but the New Jersey Office of Homeland Security said the greatest threat to public safety in New Jersey is white racist domestic terrorists. So we need to go to this summit and see if they're going to deal with it straight up. Yeah. Because I had reached out to the governor literally the day after Buffalo had happened. And I said, something needs to be done. Because if we don't do something, what happened in Buffalo can happen here in New Jersey. Absolutely. I mean, think about it. When Murphy ran for governor, the numbers between Murphy and Ciccarelli, what his name? Ciccarelli? Mm-hmm. What's his name?
Mm-hmm. That's it.
Ciccarelli. Mm-hmm. They almost matched the Biden-Trump numbers. Nearly more than a million people came out and voted for Murphy, and more than 1 million came out and voted for Ciccarelli. And these people
and
are
behind right here in Essex County.
Exactly, because he won by a slim margin, but he won when everybody was predicting that, in fact, he was going to lose. He's the first governor to get reelected to a second term, first Democratic governor to get reelected in 35 years. Now, why is this important? Because everybody is walking around right now saying the Democrats are going to lose in 2022. Well, if that's your attitude, you will lose. Mm-hmm. But if your attitude is we got to fight and beat back these fascists, then, maybe we can turn the situation around. I personally think the situation can be turned. Is it dire? Yes, it's dire. I mean, if the election were tomorrow, would the Democrats lose? Probably. But there's 6 months between now and November. And if the party would do massive voter registration, and other groups continue to do agitation, there's a possibility that the Democrats could at least hold on to the House and keep what they have in the Senate, or maybe even pick up 1 or 2 Senate seats.
Well, Larry, listen.
We got to come out. We got to mobilize.
Zaid, your guest is here, my brother.
Right. So, they will stay on because it's Joe, and we're gonna talk about the party line. Right, so stay on.
You want me to stay on?
Yeah, you definitely would enjoy this conversation.
I'll be quiet.
And he's gonna pick up on where we left off when I had him on the first time. Right? What's happening, Joe?
Right? How's it going, guys? Appreciate you having me back.
Right, it's a pleasure to have you back. Right. I reached out to Joe because I found out that there was some court activity on this question of this battle over the party line system that we have in New Jersey, and a judge has allowed the case to move forward, right? So the legal battle over the question of whether or not to abolish the party line is on. Joe, you were here with us a couple months ago. Just for sake of folks who didn't hear you the first time, why don't you give us a summary of just what the party line is and what its problems are and why it's important for us to have this fight?
I could definitely do that. Is it worth it for me to share my screen? Because I got a ballot that I can show people to talk to. It always makes this much easier.
Mike, can he do that? If our man is on,
if not, I can speak to it. I got enough practice speaking to it without it. But
go ahead and tell us.
Or if you have it, or Joe, if you have the link, put the link in private chat, and then Mike could put it up. If you have the link to the,
I can send you one. Yeah.
Put it in the private chat, and then Mike could put it up while you're
doing.
Okay.
If you go, I'm putting our Twitter handle in the private chat. If you go there, there's a pinned tweet at the top that has a bunch of graphics on it. You should be able to find one of the graphics that actually shows a ballot in there, so you put that up.
Mike, show that.
Yeah. So I'll just start going. So for those of you who are not familiar with this specific issue, it's New Jersey's own unique form of voter suppression, because in New Jersey, we've got our own issues with voter suppression. It's not so much that they keep people from voting, although there are problems with that with voter roll purges. I don't want to minimize that. But what they really do is they confuse people, they mislead people, and they trick people, enough people, into voting for certain party-backed candidates instead of the challengers who are offline. Yeah. So if you scroll down, there's a pinned tweet at the top of that Twitter. Right there. So just click on that, and then you go through the thread. There's one that shows yeah, that's just going to send you back. You want to just click on the actual tweet. Don't click on any link. Just click right there. That's giving you to the image, but just go through with like a right arrow key. I'll just keep talking. What they do is they set up a ballot in a certain way so that voters have a tendency to go straight to one specific spot on the ballot, and that is a column all the way on the left side.
Right.
So if you've ever voted in New Jersey, you're going to see that we have this very unique ballot setup that if you haven't voted elsewhere in the country, you're not going to realize we're the only state that has this. And it's set up this weird spreadsheet, right? That's got a whole bunch of empty space, candidates scattered all over the place on one side. And then on the left side of the ballot, you have one big column. We call that the county line. And that county line, if you're there, they've done studies to show that you get about 33% more of the vote, 35% more of the vote, depending on the study. There you go. That's the ballot pick. And the reason for this is because it's the only cohesive column. It's listed first all the way on the left side of the ballot. Just click on the image and then you'll be able to zoom in better. Yeah. And at the top of that ballot, you can see we kind of zoomed it out for you towards the top. It's Phil Murphy. So people will see a name that they recognize, check that off, and then just go straight down the column because that's how we're taught. County parties will send out mailers on that. Banking on the fact that they'll say vote column A for the Democrats. Never mind the fact that every single person on this ballot has to be a Democrat in order to be on a primary election ballot, because we're talking about primary elections here. We're not talking about November. We're talking about June, when you elect the people from each of for both of the parties that will represent that party in the November election. So it's something of a pre-selection for the party. And these elections matter as much, if not more, than the general election, right? Because I tell people a lot of times, the primary elections where you actually get to pick a candidate you like and back them and try to get them through to November. And then you get to November, and more often than not, you're just picking the less crappy of the two options. Because usually, a lot of times it ends up coming down to you're voting against someone rather than for someone. Whereas in the June primary election, you get to vote for the person you like the best. Anyway, back to this ballot. Because that spot, that column you see there, guess who gets to go there? It's the folks who are endorsed by the local county parties. And usually that is either a group of people who are on a position called county committee taking a vote to determine who gets that endorsement and thus this spot on the ballot, or it's literally one person. It's the county chair, the person in charge of the party in that county.
And Joe, I'm sorry, what we might here in Essex County is line A all the way, and that'll get you something like that. I'm sorry,
exactly.
I just wanted to hear it. Yeah. Okay.
No, you're spot on. That's the thing they say.
County executive leader too, Joey D.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, he's not the party chair. He's the executive, but he's kind of telling the party chair who to put there. They're sitting in a room together and deciding. But that creates a system where the voters basically are overruled because too many voters are tricked into voting down this one line. And it invalidates our primary elections. It's why we haven't had a state level rep run on that line as an incumbent and lose in 12 years. We haven't had a federal rep lose on that line running for re-election in 50. So it's undefeated for over 50 years at the federal level. So this thing dominates elections. The bigger the election, the more it dominates, generally speaking. So that's just a real quick recap on the ballot. We're the only state that does it this way. It really reinforces the strength of the political machine. It forms the foundation for party leaders to be able to dictate who wins primary elections. And then you get to the general in November, and we know a lot of these districts are gerrymandered, so you know that there's more Democrats in a district or there's more Republicans in a district. So that ends up deciding the general election. So they kind of line up the whole process so the dominoes fall over exactly how they want them to.
So how do you think who else is in the law? Who are the parties in the lawsuit? I know you are, and I know New Jersey Working Families is a party also. Who else are parties to the lawsuit?
Yeah, New Jersey Working Families is the organizational plaintiff. I'm on the lawsuit because I ran for county committee in Hamilton, which is down in Mercer County, right outside of Trenton. 2 years ago, I actually ran again this year. We'll get to that because the results have come back. We have another candidate who's affiliated with Our Revolution New Jersey. That's Miko Lakide, who ran for county clerk in Atlantic County in 2021. There were, I believe, 3 congressional candidates on here. It's Christine Conforti, who ran in Congressional District 4 in 2020. R.T. Krybik, who ran, I don't remember the district number. It's Josh Gottheimer's district. CD5, I think. And Zina Spizakis ran against Bill Pascrell, also 2020. There was a town council candidate from Neptune, I believe. His name's Kevin McMillan. And am I forgetting anybody? I think it's everybody. That's 7, right? It's me, the 3 congressional candidates, Kevin, Miko, and then, New Jersey Working Families. So I got a couple of OR affiliated, a few OR affiliated candidates. OR got behind Christine as well. I think OR got behind most of its slate. So
now tell us about the suit. It's now it's going to move forward. Just how do you think the suit should go, and then how is it likely going to go?
Yeah. So we had a recent development with the suit where we had been sitting for almost a year and a half, waiting for. I don't think it's been a year and a half. Has it been a year and a half? Has it really been that long? I lose track of time. COVID screws up your perception of time. Yeah, man. So it's been sitting there. We've been waiting for a decision on what's called motion to dismiss. So the folks who were defending, this ballot structure, who were defending the county clerks who, utilize this ballot structure, were basically trying to say that they need to throw the case out because we don't have standing. And the recent ruling that came down confirmed that we can go forward from past this motion to dismiss. They basically got rid of it. And now we get to go into what's called the discovery phase, which means we get to take a look at a bunch of information. We start getting to dig into what the machines have been up to, start getting to dig into various different bits of information to help build the case, to help. It's just going to be very, very interesting to see what comes out during discovery. And the basis of this lawsuit is that this ballot format is unconstitutional because it abridges the free speech rights of the candidates that are running. So that's the basics of why the lawsuit is alleging that this is a problem. There are a number of other things that come into it. Honestly, the attorneys on the case, I know Brett Pugach did a very good video on, it was Channel 9. I could probably go dig up the link to that. I don't have it off the top of my head, but I could send it to you afterwards. Mm-hmm. He's the one who's done a lot of the legal theory behind the case. But ultimately, at this point, it's a very promising sign. The decision we got back, the way the judge wrote his ruling was very, very promising. He included a line how he understands the gravity of this case. Should be able to pull that. Hold on.
I see you responding to Jose Gonzalez's request to put the case in an index number.
It's in federal court.
Who can follow it like that? Yes.
Yeah, I can go dig that up afterwards. I don't want to hold everybody up on here while I go digging around through social media trying to find the decision.
Thank you, Josie. We see you. All right, that's the great Josie Gonzalez, who is one of the architects of an alternate people's website and media arm called Public Square Amplified. Right, it's a awesome. very promising publication that we like a lot. And I'm glad she's in the audience tuning in. We need to have her on that. Demo, you run as an insurgent before, right? Donna, you've been in the trenches with this stuff. You know how these county machines get down. What say y'all about this? You muted, Demo.
Muted.
He's smiling. You muted, man. We can't hear you.
No, I told Donna to go ahead first. Go ahead, Donna.
No, I'm gonna go. I'm trying to fix my light, so you go first, Chair. I'm trying to fix the light, so you can't call me a vampire no more. Sorry.
I was just joking. You know I love you. No, this if you've been following the Star Ledger did a very good editorial a couple of days. Was that last week, Joe, that they did their editorial?
I think so. They had a really good political cartoon at the top of it, if I remember right. That was one of the best ones I've seen in a while.
Right. Everybody knows that one of the ways the parties stay in power is how the ballot is structured. See, sometimes when you grow up in a situation and nobody ever criticizes or says anything about stuff in your environment, you think this is how it's done all around the world, right? And then when you get older, you find out it's not done like this. In fact, the way our ballot is structured and the rules governing the structuring of our ballots, it differs from state to state. See, one of the problems in the United States is we have no uniform national system of voting. We have a patchwork of 50 different states with their own rules and procedures on how voting is done. But one of the ways that the party organizations stay in power is how they structure the ballot. You know what we grew up with, line A all the way.
Yes.
Now that keeps the parties, the party establishments in power, but it really works against new people coming up through the political ranks, so to speak. It's a way of almost ensuring, decades of rule by the same people. So there are a lot of people who are looking at this. There are a lot of people who agree, even in the Democratic Party. Some people agree that, we need to change how this is being done. So obviously Joe is here. So obviously our revolution is down with this. But I also know that the Working Families Party, and Joe, you can chime in on this, the Working Families Party has been playing a major role in the legal challenge on the ballot. Am I wrong about this?
They have been providing a good amount of financial support for the lawsuit. So yes, they've been playing a big role. It's a coalition effort. Obviously, I've highlighted our revolution because I'm a little bit biased, but a lot of our candidates have been behind this. We've been putting in a lot of effort to attack this from multiple different angles, including the lawsuit. There's another group called the Good Government Coalition of New Jersey. They started up what's called the Better Ballots New Jersey campaign, which is a combination educational campaign with a lot of the information you see on these graphics. We pulled a lot of good stuff from them, as well as trying to get party organizations and clubs and things to sign on to a resolution asking to go to what other states use, which is a much better ballot setup. So hence Better Ballots New Jersey. Looks like a multiple choice test instead of this weird spreadsheet setup we have. And it really levels the playing field for candidates, takes the ability of the party machines to pick who wins out of the equation, because they can't just put certain candidates that they endorse in a spot where they know they win. It's, they got to do a rotational order on the ballot. They have to list it like a multiple choice test, that type of thing. I also want to highlight there's a lot of other ways that folks can chip into this effort and help out. And one thing that we really focused on for maybe the last half a year was the position that is key in those endorsements in who gets to be party chair, because there are internal elections within the Democratic Party for the county party chairs. There's an example of that better ballot setup, right? You can see how it looks like a multiple choice test. You would rotate who gets listed first, right? So then you get to be able to not have it, they're just going to vote for whoever's listed first or whoever's on the left side. There's going to be a balancing effect across different ballots in different districts, so that whoever the voters pick to win will win instead of the party bosses. And what I was getting to about the county committee positions, that's the position that elects county chairs. That's the position that will vote on endorsements in many counties, like my own Mercer County, like Bergen County. So we focused on trying to make sure that folks could run for these positions who were progressive, who have good, as I like to call it, Democratic Party voter values instead of the leadership's values. Where you're going to put regular,
that's a mouthful.
Marginalized communities first.
Step back there, Joe, because that's a whole realm of political activity that most folks are just not aware of. Right, Donna, you got to say something about that.
And the county committee has been, what do I want to say, Joe? They've been sitting back. They haven't had an election because of COVID, so their seat has been carried over, and that was a decision by the head of each county committee, the state chairs. And it's the lowest. It's probably I would say it's the entry level for elected office, but they vote on some very, like, if you're if you lose an assembly person, the things they get to vote on, the decisions they make are very, very important. And for instance, our Democratic chair, he has had to make some, in Essex County, because of unfortunate reasons, he's had to make several appointments that would have been elected office. I want to say he's had several council persons, freeholders. We've lost a lot of people, if you think about it, in Essex County, and that took the conversation to the county committee chair, to the Democratic chair, who are going to fill these positions, and that gives it. So now he gets to appoint people in these positions that get a test run on office, and then by the time it's time for you to elect them, you're used to seeing them in office. Right.
And incumbency has a big advantage in elections. No, that's a really, really powerful role that the county committee does have. You also elect the county chair, which the county chair is the one who gets to set a lot of that type of policy, right, within the party.
And Joe, I'm sorry, and I just want to say, county committee, most of them get in with like 25, 30 votes too.
Oh yeah, well, I can speak to that directly because I ran this time around again for the second time, and my district had a lot higher voter turnout than the ones around us. But we'll get to that in a sec. The really important, the most important two things that county committee people do. I mean, you highlighted a really important role, but even if you don't have someone who, for whatever reason, leaves the office, whether they move to a higher office or lower office, somebody unfortunately passes away or has health issues and needs to step back, something like that. But when you have elections coming up, the county committee in many counties will vote on who the endorsed candidate is. The endorsed candidate goes on the line, and whoever gets the line wins the election. So you effectively get to be, I've told this to people when I've been out canvassing, you get to be one of however many people are on your county committee. In Mercer County, it's 400 county committee seats, 486. You get to be one out of about 486 people or less who get to basically pick our county executive for us, because regular voters don't get a vote. So that's really, really powerful. You also get to elect the county chair, and the county chair is the person who has the power to fix this ballot. It's them and the county clerk, but the clerk is beholden to the chair because they need the line to get reelected because it's a partisan election. So it's this whole circular thing, and the place where you can break it is the county chair. So if you get enough people on county committee, you can advocate to get rid of the line to fix your ballot. And that's one thing we were really focusing on across the state. Our Revolution, New Jersey ran almost 100 candidates for county committee seats. There's a graphic up on our Twitter for that. It's not in this thread, but in my own county, we are expecting to now pick up somewhere around 25 or so seats on county committee. A number of those are write-in votes because you can write in vacant districts. There are a lot of seats that are vacant, are not filled. So this is definitely something to pay attention to going forward.
Yeah, that's a different kind of organ. Was Matt brought in?
I wanted to bring Matt in because he's with our Revolution Essex, and there are other ways even to go after this where you can create like local fixes on your ballot to try to improve how it's laid out. And I think Maplewood did something like that, right, Matt?
Yeah, I apologize for the audio if it's not good. I'm outside, don't have headphones. I put a link in for how Maplewood handled this. So their municipal county committee decided they weren't going to endorse a single candidate. They decided they were going to put both candidates on the line. So sort of using the power of the line, but splitting its power, as there was one open seat and two people running. They sort of endorsed both of them, and that empowered, as Joe was saying, to have the voters decide rather than the county committee decide. So I dropped that in the chat if you want to show that, but it was a big victory because, one, they had to convince the county chair, who obviously had to get this past the municipal chair, who had to get it past the county chair, and then they had to get it through the county clerk to actually set up the ballot the way they wanted. So it doesn't go quite as far as the example that Joe showed, where everybody's broken out by their office they're running for. But it is a step forward because it took a decision from those 30 or 40 folks in Maplewood on the township county committee and opened that up to voters instead.
How many people are on the township committee?
I think it's about 40 in Maplewood. Maplewood is not a big town.
That's a lot. That's a lot. So
On the county committee, not to.
Sorry,
not
yeah.
to-
So that's the Maplewood Township. I don't know Essex County. Essex County is probably a couple hundred, I would guess.
So
Wow.
you're not.
That's all.
Yeah. And that's interesting because it made people really study the line and really get to know their candidate. So that's awesome. Yeah.
So I just did some quick Googling. Apparently there's over 1,000 reps on the Essex County Committee. I don't know how much I believe that. There is because it's 550 election districts. So then you have
That's right.
1,100 people, 1,100
That's right.
seats.
It's a big county.
That's crazy.
Joe,
Speaking
maybe.
from a county where it's 486 reps, like that's a big committee. My goodness.
It is.
Joe,
I think
Jimmy, you were going to say something. Go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to ask Joe, beside better ballots, I'm talking with small b and small b, there's also a move afoot in New Jersey to do ranked choice voting, which they tried.
New York City.
Right. They tried to do it in New York. I think they may have stepped back from it. I'm not sure, but I know the first go out, it didn't go smoothly. What are your thoughts, Joe, on ranked choice voting? And explain it to people.
Yeah, happy to.
I'm sorry, one more second. That's what you're saying. What they just did in New York, like the first, second, third person, chairman. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Right.
Exactly. So the basic concept of ranked choice voting is, how normally you have, let's say, 4 candidates in a race, right? And you'll go in and you'll pick which one on your ballot you want to vote for. You vote for them. You call it a day, right? And they total up the votes. Whoever gets the most votes wins. Or you could take the top 2 and you do a runoff, depending on how the election law is written. With ranked choice voting, another way to refer to that is instant runoff elections. So what you do is, instead of just voting for one candidate in that scenario, you would rank from 1 to 4. So you do 1, 2, 3, 4. Who your most preferred candidate is, your second preferred candidate, your third, your fourth, right? And the reason you do that is because when they tally the votes, they'll take everyone's first choice, tally up the votes, and whoever finishes last in that, they will knock off. And then all of the people who chose that candidate as their first choice, now they voted for their second choice instead. And you just rinse and repeat, and you keep knocking off the lowest candidate. So you'd have 3 rounds of you'd have the initial election and then 2 runoffs. So you'd run it 3 times for those 4 candidates, right? And if the bottom vote getter the first round is candidate number 2, candidate number 2 goes away. And then you've got 1, 3, and 4. And whoever the second choice was for the people who voted for candidate 2 first, whoever they listed as their second choice, their second preferred option, would then get those votes, would be added on to the totals that already exist, and you'd run it again. And then let's say candidate 4 is at the bottom. They have the least number of votes. You knock off candidate 4, and you rinse and repeat it, and then you would see who has the most between 1 and 3. Does that all make sense? Cool. So this is something we really need desperately, because our election infrastructure in the U.S., in New Jersey, across the U.S., is built to reinforce a 2-party system. It's built to reinforce that you can't deviate from that because you need to vote against the person who is most antithetical to your values, who opposes your values the most, because you're scared that they're going to win. So instead of voting for the candidate you might like best, who you think, oh, they don't have a shot, you're going to vote for the Democrat. If you're afraid of the Republican, you're going to vote for the Republican if you're afraid of the Democrat. If you get ranked choice voting, you can list that third party option you really like first, knowing that if they don't win, then you get to move to your second option, and you can make sure that the big bad guy that you're voting against doesn't win. So it makes it feasible to have other options in a general election. And that's a really important thing to highlight here. We're talking about general elections. What would solve a lot of the problems in general elections in New Jersey. It would solve some of the problems in primary elections as well. But if you don't get rid of the line, you can have a line with ranked choice and run into the same problems, because you're going to have the same systemic advantages where people will look at a ballot and gravitate towards that one line on the left. I think you guys are seeing it here. So on the left, it's a crucial element. We need it. It does not solve the problem of the line, though. And that's one of the reasons I keep coming back to our ballot format and the line, because it's not a silver bullet fixing the line, but it is a necessary foundational first step to sorting out all of our other voting and political problems that we have. If we don't fix this, there's no real way to effectively have real primary elections in New Jersey. So those primary elections are too important. That's how we end up with so much political corruption, because they use this as a tool to control legislators once they're in office. Want to control elected representatives once they're in office, because those elected representatives know how powerful the line is. They know if they don't make the bosses happy, if they don't make the party chair, the party committees happy, they're going to get moved off the line. We've seen Tara Vellotti get moved off the line. He's a rep from up in Hudson County, and he didn't even run because he knew he was going to lose. We saw others get moved off the line and choose to run and get clobbered. This thing it's the most powerful thing you can have in New Jersey politics, period, stop. In a primary election.
And Matt, and I'm gonna say an example that if they don't see it so much in New Jersey, you've seen it on the federal level. It happens all the time. What happened to Liz Cheney on the federal level happens all the time locally with local elections. You know, when she didn't do what the party wanted her to do, they removed her from all of her leadership positions. That happens all the time in our elections.
Who was that? Who was that, Donna?
Liz Cheney, at the federal, you know, when she didn't do.
Oh, Liz Cheney.
Right, Liz Cheney. You know, it was a very visual thing for them to see, but that's normal in our local elections.
The biggest difference is that with Liz Cheney, there isn't this concrete thing that they can do to kick her out. Right? They try. They'll succeed with some people, but in New Jersey, you do that, you piss off the wrong person, and you're gone. Like, you might try to run off the line, you might try to beat it, but it is so hard to beat as soon as you get above like town council level. Like, I'm sure that there are county commissioners who've won off the line sometime in the past, but state level, federal level, good luck. Also, before, I know we're dragging on in time here real quick, I do want to highlight, we had a couple of off the line wins at the county committee level, and me and my running mate are one of them, or two of them. And I want to highlight that one of the great things about county committee, if you decide to step up and run, or if you find folks who want to do it and you want to support them, it's a small election. These, like you said, I think it was Donna said before, it's like 20, 25 votes can win an election. In mine, we have final vote totals now, and I pulled, I think, like 88 votes. My running mate pulled a little under 80, and our opponents pulled 45 votes each. And that's off the line, because we went and we talked to almost every voter. we canvassed a ton. And you can do that in these small elections because you're dealing with a voter universe that's small enough. You can go knock 100 doors and you've talked to everybody who's going to vote in your election in a lot of cases. So I just want to highlight that because we had a couple of really big wins, and this is something that is repeatable elsewhere if folks want to use this as a way to make positive change in their communities that bubbles up further, that builds up further, because this is the foundational level of New Jersey politics. You start making change at this level, and this is how you get more progressive reps who will really stick up for regular work-class people, for marginalized communities, for the people who need help. So I'd encourage everybody to look into that. And if folks want help, we'll make sure we share some sort of sign-up link to get involved. Obviously, this is a Newark-based show, so Matt, I think we wanted to throw up the ORSX Twitter, right?
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right, awesome. I'll put the link for that in the private chat. You guys can share that out. Let's see. In here somewhere.
Yeah, well, as you're doing it, I mean, you kind of answered the question that I was going to ask, right? And then we can unpack it a little more. We've got a couple of minutes, right? I mean, and Don, I want to hear your thoughts on this also. And Damon, yours also. I mean, that's like I said, that's a dimension of political activity that most of our community knows nothing about. I know very little. This is all relatively new to me, I must say, right? So what suggestions do you have for folks getting involved on that level, and what kind of organizing that's different from the typical organizing that we do when we got somebody that we want to run for office or help run for office?
Well, I'll start off and I'll say, remember, all politics are local. And this is as local as you can get.
Absolutely.
And I will say that, again, this is an office that, because it's really, if you picture the block, the people who are electing you are people who are within right in your neighborhood, pretty much. So it's really a door-to-door thing. So I would say reach out to Matt and Joe, get their help, and start here, because this is as local as it gets.
This is what we do. We organize locally. We're based off of counties, but like, I know when we go try to reach out to different communities, we're reaching out to the towns, people in the towns, trying to help them work on their municipal issues as well. If there are things that they care about, they want to try to push progressive policy at the local level. They want to try to, there's a compressor going in their town and they want to fight back against that. There's a pipeline project. There's a really bad instance of
battles like brutality. That all the time in this area.
Yeah, like whatever it might be. We try to help people organize in their communities to stand up for them, the people there, and the communities as a whole. So yeah, thank you, Don. I appreciate that, because please reach out. We're happy to help.
The other thing I would add is depending on how organized your county and municipal party are, sometimes there's no one running. So you may see a ballot that has no one listed and it just has a write-in space. And so if you see that on your sample ballot that you get a couple weeks before the election, you could literally win that election with 1 vote or 2 votes. So that's how some folks have been able to sort of infiltrate. If the machines go to sleep for an election, sometimes you don't even have to file the paperwork. You don't have to canvass 80 voters. Sometimes it's you and a few of your friends could write you in, and then you're elected now.
Yep.
And Matt,
that's how we got half our candidates in.
Yeah, and let's
Go
say
ahead,
there
Don,
let's say right there, because a lot of people are not really aware of the right in New Jersey. The write-in that you can write in Mickey Mouse in New Jersey, and if 20 people write it in, Mickey Mouse is going to win. And you really need to study that ballot. And I will tell you that ballot that they send out, that's optional for the clerk to send out. So you need to take advantage of that. But and the Board of Ed, oftentimes Democratic chairs don't get involved in the Board of Ed elections. And now most elections in New Jersey, most Board of Eds in New Jersey are elected now. So that's a good place to start right there as well.
That's right. Okay. Good stuff. Ed, you want to chime in?
Always when Matt is on, I'm always captivated.
I'm having a hard time.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you fine.
Yeah, I tell you every time Matt come on, it's like a school lesson going on. I'm taking notes. I'm like, wow, this is just incredible. But again, it comes down to what Mayor Baraka said. We're arguing over certain, elected positions in the city of Newark, but he's talking about there are hundreds of positions that we aren't even looking at, And I think that what Matt is laying out in terms of looking at a different way of voting, with ranked choice voting and all of that, I think that these are ideas and discussions that, of course, we should be having them right here in our space, but we've got to take this to the community. And I think that we've got to begin to have these conversations, and we've got to educate, particularly folks in the Essex County community. Because remember what the mayor said tonight. He said, the people he's fighting against, is just absolutely incredible. I mean, even though you control the mayor's office and you control, the council, you still fighting people on the county level, which is absolutely incredible. And if there are hundreds of if these people win in by 30 votes, come on, man, come on. I mean, look, and I'm saying we need to bring Matt into some meetings locally, and we need to have some conversations, with Matt and with Joe, and sit down and try and really explain this stuff to our people in a way that they can get it and start running these people for these offices.
And Ed, Josie put it on in her comments that we have to civics is very important, and Matt and Joe, I would love to see a to see what do I want to see us go municipality by municipality and see how many schools are teaching local civics to teach young people how to vote. Now, I'm a class of high school 85. Our elected officials used to come into the school, teach us how to vote. My mayor, when I was a young person, was Joel Shane in Orange, and we used to get really involved. Now, by the time I got to elected office, it's almost, we can't elect elected officials into the school because that's politics. No, it's politics when they're running. Once they're elected, it's their job and they serve the people. So civics is very important, and for them not to teach it in our school, we're doing a disservice to our young people. And that's why so many people get lost, because they don't really know the local civics or how to voting goes until something affects them, and then they get involved.
Yeah, civics education is crucial. I mean, there are some programs that exist. I know down around me, there's a program that they call it Gallery. It's government and law-related experiences, and they'll have half the semester there. They'll have elected officials and local activists and organizations and stuff come in and talk to the students about what's going on, different issues they're working on. They're part of the course is you do a certain amount of volunteer hours as part of that course. These are high school students. And then the second half of the year, they do, I think it's a model UN Congress thing. So that's a really good experience they have at some high schools, but it's always interesting to see which high schools have it and which ones don't. For example, I live in Hamilton. I believe at least 2 of the 3, if not all 3 of the high schools in Hamilton have that. You go over to Trenton, I don't think there's a gallery program over in Trenton. So that's a GALRE. Call it gallery because it sounds better. But it's important to try to have those type of programs in all the high schools because it is really, really crucial stuff.
There's other things that we probably should be doing as organizers, right? That are very much a part of our tradition, right? In the early days of the civil rights movement, we had freedom schools. Freedom schools gave cultural literacy to children, while the parents were given political literacy, as we were organizing those parents, right? Malcolm X and OAAU gave us liberation schools. Liberation schools did the kind of very thing that we're talking about, that organized folks on the local level on how local things work and then related to the broader stream of politics that the organization represented, right? So there are places from a community base that we can jump onto and then make that a part of the organizing that we need to do. So just wanted to take that to another place that's within our frame of reference in terms of our own traditions. Right. Yeah. Good stuff, y'all. Good stuff.
And Joe, can you repeat? And Joe, repeat that, because one of our Josie, she asked a question: what school districts was teaching those courses again? And I know when I was in high school, they had a civics program where we went all the way down to Trenton, all the way to DC, and we got to meet with our local, our federal elected officials. So there are programs that are out there, but like you said, what school districts are taking advantage of what school or not? So can you repeat the schools that you said in your area?
Yeah, it's the 3 Hamilton schools I know have it. There are a number of other schools around the state, but I don't know which specific districts do. But I know that the 3 Hamilton schools do. It's Steiner, Nottingham, and Hamilton West. I would need to look into what other districts have it. I would reach out to your local high schools and ask if they have this program.
That's what I was trying to say, Joe. I would love to see you do a poll on that. That's the poll I would love to see.
Yeah.
And then say the name of the program again. Gallery. Let's say it again.
It's called Gallery. It's spelled like Galray, so it's Galre. And while I got a second for plugging stuff, I put a couple of links in the private chat. I can also just real quick.
Go ahead and put them up.
Yeah, it's how to get involved with us if you're interested, if you want to run for any of these local positions, if you want to run for anything else, if you want to organize to help other elected officials, or other candidates who are progressive get involved and win their elections. We also had a couple of big wins in Dover as well. Had to help a couple of.
Carol Louise won.
Yep, that was one of them.
Yeah,
no, she's great.
We've been talking. Carol was very much a part of our statewide coalition against police brutality. When we first started, she was one of the first to organize her community to do a resolution for strong CCRB for her town. And now she just won an election, and she did it as an insurgent. Yep. So we're looking trying to figure out how to bring Carol on to talk about that and where she's heading next. Right. So yeah, I'm glad you lifted her up. She's really good people. There you go.
Yeah, no, that's what we threw up when we knew we won. We had to beat some really good results on election day, so we were able to call it that night. We had to wait much later for my good friend Brady Rivera. He's our elections chair. The election night results came out, and him and his running mate and one of their opponents were all within 1 vote of each other. So we had to sit on that for like a week before we called his win.
Wow.
But I'm happy to say he won. We're still trying to figure out who won the second seat, because apparently there's a tie for that second seat. So I don't know what happens then. You flip a coin?
And Joe and Matt, are you paying attention to how the redistricting is coming along, and how people who are allies are now going to be running against each other?
I'm glad you asked that. That's a serious problem in Essex County.
There's a bunch of races in Essex. I was going to say there's a bunch of races in Essex at the state level that are going to have two incumbents running against each other. In some cases, now a white incumbent and a black incumbent in a much more minority district. So it's going to be very interesting what they do with the lines there, because that's effectively who gets the line will decide who wins those elections.
Yeah, I'm very concerned about Nia Gill with this. Nia Gill is one of our truly outspoken voices in the New Jersey State Senate. She literally stood alone in opposition to that bad body cam bill that these jive Democrats call themselves trying to do for police reform. She stood alone. Right, I'm concerned about what this may do to her, because she's going to wind up knocking heads with. Oh man, I'm looking right at him. Y'all know who I'm talking about.
Senator Cody.
Yeah, she's running against Cody. Yeah,
right.
And shout out to Todd Burrows.
Let's be honest.
Yeah. Shout out to Todd Burrows, Close Up Foundation. That's how I went to DC as well in 1985 too. I was on the bus from Orange, Todd. That was a civics program that took students from the high school down all the way to DC to get civically engaged. Close Up Foundation.
Hey.
Still.
Speaking of civics programs, we have, and Ed ride with me, right? We have coming up the National Black Political Convention 2022 in September. And Adema, you had a chance to address them. But students at Seton Hall, students from Science High School, students from Maplewood Orange, they did a mock Gary convention. They did a mock convention, right, a few weeks ago. And we're trying to figure out how to get some of those students to talk to other young people in the area to bring more grassroots young people involved in the area. So y'all may want to lift up that model, because that's something that's another place where we can need some more legs.
Or connect Matt and Joe to Seton Hall, the professor. I can't think. I'm lost right now.
Kelly Harris. Yeah, Kelly Harris.
Yeah. And let them know what they were. Y'all familiar with the Gary Convention, Matt and Joe? Right there in your neighborhood, and you got a great Freedom School and are you familiar with the Freedom School in South Harlem, Maplewood?
Yes, that I am.
Yeah, I got a lot going on over there.
I've got some.
Well, I tell you one thing is for sure, man. We definitely appreciate both of you guys, and really appreciate the information that you guys are sharing, and really just the work and effort that you all are putting into it, and the documentation that you're doing. Right? I think that we appreciate that, and always great to have you guys on. I mean, it's a political education. I'm a political geek. So, I mean, I'm always impressed by Larry, but when you guys come on, I mean, I sit here.
Come on, Larry's way more impressive than us.
Well, there's no doubt. Larry is impressive all in his own, but when you guys start laying out charts and bringing all of that, if Larry brought his charts, oh my God, listen, we all would need computers and everything because Larry got an incredible memory. We all know that. Larry does all of that stuff without charts. But we appreciate y'all coming through and bringing that information. And so we'll give y'all the last word.
Yeah, no, appreciate you all.
And we'll ask them the question too.
Question?
What the question is Joe, you've been on before. I think this is Matt's first time.
Oh, but, yeah.
This is a hip hop political talk.
I was so amazed by this local election. We almost let you off without asking a question. Oh my goodness!
What you say?
You gonna ask it? You gonna ask it? Zaid, you gonna ask the question? Or you want me to do it?
Yeah, no, go ahead and ask it. Yeah, I didn't quite hear you. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. So Matt and Joe, we always ask this question. No matter if you've been here, Joe, you've been here before. You've been asked a question, so we'll let Matt go first. But Joe, you still got to ask him. This is a hip hop political show, so we always ask, what hip hop group or individual are you listening to that motivates you when you're going out to speak or to do some of this work that you're doing? So Matt first, and then Joe.
I listen to a lot of the Roots and Black Thought, so I'll go with that.
Joe?
Good stuff.
Well, last time I was on here, honestly, I might stick with the same type of answer. If I want to get hyped for something, pretty much anything Rage Against the Machine. Anything by now.
I didn't hear you. Who did you say, Joe?
If I want to get hyped for something, if I want to, feel like I can run through a wall, anything by Rage Against the Machine. I specifically mentioned Tom Morello last time, but
okay.
I mentioned a show that
came
Tom
out
Morello
very strong from me some years ago. Very strong. I know that real well. All right,
Chairman,
well,
we haven't asked you. Chairman, we haven't asked you in a long time. Who are you listening to? Yeah, you didn't hear. Okay, Matt and Joe, y'all got the last word.
Nah, so I'll let Matt go last. I'll just real quick get involved, folks. Like these local elections, county committee. If you want to talk about all of the different ways that we can fix our ballots, the ways we can make it so that progressives, so that working class folks, folks who want to stick up for marginalized communities can have a real voice in our politics, because we don't right now. If you want to make that happen, easiest ways to do that is to get involved with county committee, get involved with fixing our ballots, because that's the first step, right? There's a lot of other things that we work on. I'll give a quick shout out. There's a climate march in Trenton next Thursday, 10:30 a.m. Yeah. It's calling for them to stop all 7 of the new fossil fuel projects that New Jersey's planning. It's calling for 50% greenhouse gas emissions reductions by 2030. No renewable natural gas. And a lot of those projects are in marginalized communities of color. So we really need to stop those. I'll stop with that. Matt, did you have anything?
Yeah, I was just going to say, if you reach out to us through our Revolution Essex or through our Revolution New Jersey statewide, and in addition to the line where we have a plank on police accountability, so we're active in NJCAP with Father Zaid, and if you want to get involved, let us know. We're happy to help.
Yeah, we got CJ Griffin joining us on Monday. Right on, y'all. Right on. Good to have you, Mike. Good to have you.
Nice.
All right. Good
CJ's
shares.
great.
Right. Yes. Good shares. Right. Okay. All right, guys. All right.
Thank you.
Good segment. Good segment.
Thank you for having us on, guys.
You're welcome. Glad to have you. Right. This is a mic you got access to when you need it. Okay. All right. So that's a good segment. In a minute, in a few minutes, we're going to have Sister.
I can hear you guys now. I couldn't hear you before.
Oh, okay. Because I was trying to get you in the conversation.
I had one of my phones overheated, and then when I switched to the other phone, the sound wasn't good. Now I'm back on the phone that overheated. I can hear you now. I just hope I don't go overheat again.
Yeah,
that's with the Samsung, right? The Samsung phones have a problem with overheating, with heating up the battery.
I got one of them. Yeah, I got one of them. And folks don't realize that I have to just put the phone down sometimes. They don't understand that. They think I'm just not recognized. I'm just trying to deal with the limitations of what this phone is. In a few minutes, we're going to have Nkechi Taifa, right? One of my comments who literally came of age with the reparations movement, right? As a warrior lawyer for reparations. But Hakeem Green just popped in, right? Hakeem just popped in. Hakeem, what's going on? What's going on, young boy? What's happening?
Dealing with COVID right now, but it's all good.
Oh man.
You know.
Oh.
Finally got me, but you know, it's all good. I'm here.
How are your symptoms?
They light. I just get real tired. You know, I get zapped for energy, congestion, you know, whatever. But it just feels like I had a long day at the pool for like a week.
Can I eat?
Worse. Yeah, right. Can I? Same.
Yeah.
Like that one, huh?
Yeah, you down there where things are a lot less or a lot more cavalier about behaviors to contain it. Right? I worry about all my folks down in Florida with that stuff. We got some crazy crackers down in Florida. I'm gonna make it plain.
I mean, so first of all, let me just say right now, I used to think that what's the brother's name that works the activist brother that comes on and gives us like the devastating information? Ryan, what's his last name?
Haygood on the wealth gap. From Jersey Social Justice.
I thought he was the person that made me feel the saddest, but now I got to put Chairman Larry in hand. I did not know that my man got an election force, military. This is not good. See, this Ed Rowley fault because I was gonna sit this one out, but he brought me in here so I could hear this vicious information. I didn't know. I did not know.
Serious. Just
Hakeem,
Google it.
That's how you know Hakeem a gangster. He just be like, yeah, he down the street. That's cool, whatever.
Yes, serious.
Hakeem, we need you to be careful, though, beloved. All right, this is still dangerous stuff. We have more treatment modalities out than when I got sick, but it's still out
stay
here.
Healthy. I eat right, drink a lot of water, exercise every day, eat tons of fruits and vegetables. It's all good. Vaccinated, boosted, all that.
Yeah, that'll build up your antibodies and your resistance. Indeed, but it's just we all still have to be very careful, especially the older, those of us who are older, right? Okay, and have other conditions, right? Tell no lies, claim no easy victories. All
right. But take care of yourself, because like you said, that tiredness it comes back on you. If you're not one that used to be, feeling like that, it's an awkward feeling. Yes. So sorry to hear that. Oh man! So you've been ducking and diving. So it caught you somewhere. It finally got you.
Yeah, it may make sense. We was on the road last weekend. Wife got it first, and then she passed it to me.
Yeah, it's like
that's all it takes. Especially that's all it takes.
And back in the day, once something got in the household, our grandmothers used to put us in a room with the chicken pots. Now everybody get it so we can be done with it. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Well, take care of each other, and like you said, you still pushing through with the exercise and everything. And it's one of those things you just have to strengthen your body. So, wow.
We got to on another whole nother level. We got to at some point also do a talk just on the politics of Florida right now, because they're going to be, they have been pivotal in years like this, and they will be pivotal again. In fact, the DeSantis is considered the next line of Trumpites to be considered for national office, right? So that really needs to be looked at. There's that race with Mario Rubio. What's my sister's name? I'm having
Val Jennings, Val Demings, excuse me.
Yeah,
Val Demings.
Yeah.
Hakeem, did you hear that he has? Did you know that he had an election police? DeSantis.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I know. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's dangerous.
Gustavo.
Yeah. Yep. So you don't.
Newfangled racism. Yes.
Not new.
And so, Larry, you said that these guys are going around knocking on people's doors in Florida?
Yes. They're going out door to door. The whole effort is to frighten and intimidate people. It's a form of voter suppression. But these are armed people. These are not just people going. These are like police. They got guns, and they knocking on your door asking about your registration. So it's all designed to suppress the vote. That's what it's designed to do. All of this is about power. It's about keeping power.
What's interesting is that I don't want to throw nobody under the bus, but it's some of the folks that I've considered leadership over the years, folks who present themselves as leadership, who, though they may not be Trumpers, they seem to be real open to those types of conservative ideas. And in the middle of Facebook discourse, like 4 or 5 years ago, I was like, man, this is very reminiscent of Nazi Germany. And one person in particular like laughed at me and said, no, brother, this is not what this is. This is the farthest thing from that, and so forth. And the person who said it to me,
I got a sneaky suspicion I know who you talking.
And this is somebody who, from the time I was, 18, 19, 20, I held in very high esteem. I had to unfriend them and block them. I'm like, bro, if your leadership and this is what you standing on, man, you opening the door for our extermination, brother. You're empowering forces that are here for our extermination.
All right, now you got.
It just doesn't make sense that.
Talking about.
I ain't gonna say no name. I ain't gonna say that name here. I'll let you guys know when I see you guys, whatever.
Right.
But I'm just gonna say, they're well integrated in a lot of things that we're doing, and it's gonna expose itself at the National Black Political Convention. But it's
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Keep going.
It makes me very uneasy. I don't like talking about people when they're not here to defend themselves. That's why I'm not saying that.
Well, I think one of the things that the chairman, when he said, remember Hitler marched up, was it Fifth Avenue? He didn't only march, you got to remember these things happen here and they're beginning to happen again. So that's why what Chris said, this is not new.
Listen, Hitler was Time's Man of the Year.
Man of the Year.
In 1936.
Yes, he was.
Hitler was recognized as Man of the Year by the Woodrow Wilson School of International Affairs in 1938, I think it was.
Yeah.
What was that movie that came out? There was a movie that came out. It was supposed to be about a romance among the royal family of Britain, but it revealed how many members of the royal family actually supported the Nazi movement. like Queen Elizabeth's family. You know, they all relative. The German and the English, they all intermarried, you know. But there was a movie, I can't remember. What was the prince who stepped down, who refused to become king? It was about him.
Oh,
was it Prince William?
You talk about Prince William and his sister?
Yeah.
No.
Harry.
I'm sorry, Harry.
No. Not the recent. Not recent. I'm going back. This is like in the
right
late 30s, early 40s.
Yeah.
One of them stepped down.
Yeah.
He was having an affair with a woman.
Yeah.
And if he couldn't become king unless he broke up with her. So he stepped down. He refused to become king. But that movie unfolded all these relationships between the English royal family who admired, you know, Hitler. But what you're saying, Hakeem, you know, a lot of us experienced that when we were talking a year before January 6th. If we go back to the summer of 2020, when people were trying to sound the alarm, people was looking at us cross-eyed. People would give me the side eye. You know, when I start talking about fascism, oh, here you go. Now, they on television, the Congress people talking about fascism in America, talking about there was a coup. They couldn't, after January 6th, they couldn't even unite at first on what to call it. They wouldn't call it a riot. Should we call it insurrection? The Republicans want to call it a tour. But then what did he say in the first hearing? He said this was a coup. It was an attempt to overthrow the government. And that's what it was. And I'm telling you, before this thing is over, you're going to see people involved at every level. There's no way that the military was not activated without somebody making sure that that didn't happen. No way that the police were ordered not to have body armor, ordered not to shoot guns. Not some of them told don't even bring guns.
One shot fired out of all of that mess.
That's right. This wasn't an accident.
The best policing restraint you could ever see. But let one
Negro but it wasn't just because they were white. They had been ordered.
That's right.
To behave in a certain way and to act in a certain way and to use certain police protocols and not use others. They were ordered not to shoot. They were ordered not to wear certain body armor, etc., etc. It wasn't just because they were white and the insurgents were white. No, it was because it had been an order signed by Chris Miller. You can actually go online and look up the January 4th memo of Chris Miller.
Chairman, I want you to continue, but our guest is on. She's been sitting here. She's been sitting here, and I just want to let her know that we see her beautiful face. Zaid? Yeah, okay. We want to acknowledge you, sis.
Yeah, you walked in on the hot one, Nkechi.
Or just jump in, and jump in and say something.
I'm gonna get mine in early. I need my signed copy, you know, and then we good. Just saying.
Tell everybody what you need your signed copy of.
Black Power, Black Lawyer. I'm gonna need.
By who? Make it plain.
I'm gonna need my signed copy.
By who? Make it plain.
I'm gonna get my plug in right now.
Make it plain, boy.
Now, Dr. Taifa, you can get whatever you want to say after this is up to you. I'm just saying I need my signed copy, you know, because we don't know when the Larry Hand autobiography coming out. So I don't know if I'm gonna get my signed copy of that, but I know yours is out. So I'm gonna come.
So I appreciate that. Thank you very much. But I was intrigued listening to Larry Ham. I really was, because he is definitely talking about the handwriting that is on the wall, and it's in the midst of us right now, and we don't see it happening. It's the same thing that happened in Nazi Germany. The Jews, it was right there happening, and folk did not see it happening when it was happening until it was too late. Okay, so I'm listening with open ears. So
let us not forget how Reconstruction was militarily overthrown also. And Nkechi's right there in DC. So she got a whole nother lens on that we don't see. We understand it politically and looking at it from afar through these different avenues where we got access to some decent information. But she right there in DC. right? So this is a conversation that she could definitely help us take to another level. The book that Chris was referring to is her memoir that she put out just recently, right? And I was talking about you a little while ago, and I was talking about how amazing it is how far we have come on this question. I mean, you literally grew up and came of age as a warrior lawyer with the very modern manifestation of the movement with reparations within Cobra, right? I mean, I can remember when we were younger once upon a time, right? Right? I was talking about Sundiata being free today. We had our rally today, right? Last year, we was fighting, making that last push to get him out, right? But now he's actually free. And one of our favorite artworks by Sundiata is that piece he did of you when we were all younger, way back then. We loved that picture.
Yes, indeed. Thank you.
Gorgeous piece of art that he did. It really did you justice, right? But our warrior lawyer on the question of reparations is here. Reparations is a compelling, important, and evolving and growing movement that is growing in spaces that we did not expect to see for some time, but it's happening. California, Evanston, Illinois, Boston, right? We had a big rally today for the question of a New Jersey task force for reparations. We lost a prize elder in reparations, the late great Bill Owens, who was the first to craft legislation that ultimately became HR 40 that we associate with the late great John Conyers, right? There's a lot happening on that front. So I wanted to bring up, and then the call for Mr. Biden, old Joe, who the only reason why he's in Washington, D.C. is because of Negroes like you and me who put him there. You understand? Right? And there's a need, while we're waiting for Congress to do something with the power of the pen and the executive order, he could do a task force by virtue of his authority as a chief executive of this country on the question of reparations. And Nkechi, let's unpack some of that. Where should we go first? Talk to us, warrior woman. What's happening?
Well, let me just go first by what just happened yesterday on the on the ellipse on the south lawn of the White House. I told you I am in Washington, D.C. A coalition of groups, the Why We Can't Wait coalition, had a first of its kind installation on the grounds of the White House, manifestation of the Pan-African flag, the red, black, and green, in the form of flowers and plants, roses, plants, the black mulch, green foliage, and it was in a huge I don't even know the dimensions, but it was red, black, and green. So we held a press conference right there on the grounds in front of that installation of the red, black, and green. I was the first person to speak, and I spoke about yesterday being June 16th. The 16th of June will be slavery's doom. At the stroke of midnight, the blacks will strike. Those were the words of DeMar Vesey on June 16th, 1822. As he was beginning his insurrection. Unfortunately, the blacks were not able to strike because the plan was thwarted. But I spoke about that on the grounds, and I said that this is the time that Biden needs to sign that executive order bringing HR 40 into existence. Shortly after I spoke, they shut us down. There were about 5 or 6 other speakers that would come after me. They shut down the press conference. Of course, they said there was some kind of security issue, and they evacuated. They evacuated the whole South Lawn. Now, we know that
they pulled a Fannie Lou Hamer on you. Oh my gosh!
They took the mic, and of course, the subterfuge was that Biden was about to leave, and everyone had to leave, but we were standing out there outside of the gate for over 2 hours. I mean, it doesn't take that long for him to leave. It basically. So yeah, we are living in a fascist state, Brother Larry. I mean, I'm just saying. And although why do we go to the colonizer's house, to demand justice? I mean, we go through the motions because that's what we do. But we should not allow the blinders to be pulled over our eyes that we're going to truly get justice, because we know it all boils down to and amounts to just us. But I will say this. The state of California right now is engaged in historic hearings on the issue of reparations. They enacted a task force model almost exactly off of HR 40, the federal reparations bill, and they just released their interim report. The final report will come next year. So, they have bounced.
Let's stop for a second.
Over the fence.
500 pages.
Yes.
13 chapters. They weren't playing. They took it seriously. Talk about that.
And it covers much more than California. That's why it's like
it was very
the federal government ought to be ashamed of itself. It ought to be ashamed of itself because it should be leading as opposed to trailing. I mean, even the city of Evanston, Illinois, beat not only the state of California, but also the federal government to the punch by creatively using tax revenue from its legal cannabis industry to fund reparatory justice initiatives in that, in that city. I always say, Brother Zaid, that the harms from the enslavement era and beyond were multifaceted. Thus, the remedies must be multifaceted as well. So it's not just one thing. And please, it's not just closing the black-white wealth gap. That's a part of it. But some people seem to think that is the end all, do it all. No, it is that plus a whole lot of other things as well. There's so many vestiges and living legacies from the enslavement era that last all the way down through to this day, whether we're talking about the voting disenfranchisement, whether we're talking about the mass incarceration, whether we're talking about the Jim Crow apartheid, the redlining, the health disparities, the educational inequities, the stealing of our culture and our languages, the denial of the right to self-determination. All of these should be part and parcel of a reparatory justice, settlement. And I will say California is taking the lead. The state of New York, the state of New Jersey, it's right on its heels. So I'm just saying. And the federal government needs to go in and step to the plate. And, some people might say, well, why the federal government? Wasn't all the injury done by the states? Well, there were so many culpable parties. And the United States government, absolutely, the feds were a central culpable party enshrined right there within the Constitution, the continued importation of African prisoners of war to any state that might desire us until the year 1808. That's in the Constitution. The delegation of ourselves as 3/5 of a white man, that's in the Constitution. And most egregious, that clause that said that even if we just walked away quietly in the night, like Harriet Tubman, or masterminded elaborate slave insurrections like Demarvisi, it doesn't matter. If we escaped, if we dared to lift our voices, they were going to come after us with their patty rollers and
Fugitive Slave Act.
Dogs and pursuant to the Fugitive Slave Act. Exactly. That act mandated that none of us was safe anywhere. There was no safe haven. This wasn't like Brazil where Jamaica, you could go to the hills. It wasn't going to be no Ganga Zumbi here in the United States. Nowhere was safe. That's why Harriet Tubman, I never understood way back in the day. Why did Harriet Tubman have to go to Canada? She had to go to Canada. She had to go outside of the jurisdiction of the United States. Anyway, I'm just talking on. Just ask me a question.
Well, we brought you to talk. we ain't bring you on the model.
I have some things.
I know you got to find that book and show us a picture of that book and put it up so we can see your book.
Oh no, it's not just that book. Hold on.
You got to run it down.
Oh, excuse me.
Man, look at that beautiful chair. That's a beautiful chair you're sitting in.
This one's Black Power, Black Lawyer. This is my memoir. But I also wrote 3 children's books back in the day, in the 70s and 80s. Shining
Are
Legacy.
you talking about those books that were banned from school?
Yeah. Who's that? Yeah.
Oh my God. What did you say? Did you say something bad about white Americans that were uncomfortable?
Because they were. I found out that they were banned last year by the Central York, Pennsylvania School District. Also, this book, I'll tell about this in a minute. And so I said, okay, First of all, I knew they ain't read the book because the books hadn't been in print in decades. So I said, I'm going to put them back in print, which is what I did. But this book here, Reparations, yes.
I remember
this
that.
was co-authored by Chokwe Lumumba and Mario Bedelli and myself. It was first came out in 1987. Reparations, yes, has a long title. The legal and political reasons why new Africans, Black people in the United States should be paid now for the enslavement of our ancestors and for war against us after slavery. So I have a book. This was banned also. I have a book coming out hopefully very soon called Reparations on Fire, How and Why It's Spreading Across America. And this historical gem, I'm calling it a gem because Chokwe Lumumba and Mario Bedelli.
Those were good days. Those are good days with us. I tell you, yes, right.
I'm going to be reprinting this in the appendix of my new book that's coming out. That's called Reparations on Fire. So stay tuned. All these books are available at Black bookstores, African American Literature Book Club. You can get them there. If you want to just go with the colonizer and it'll come first thing in the morning, you can go to Amazon. But all on my website, it will take you to the Black bookstores, where we can support our own.
That's right. Right down on, I'm sure we got it right down on Broad Street in North.
So yes, yeah. Well, source knowledge is the order. They don't have it. They need to get it.
They don't. Okay, well, we have to hook her up with a source of knowledge and bring her up into the rooms to do a book signing. Then,
yeah,
absolutely, I would love that. Yes,
yeah, that'd definitely work.
So,
but a lot of folks do not know. And Nkechi and I, we came of age up under the Mario Bedellis and the Chokwe Lumumbas. But but long before Chokwe Lumumba became Mayor Chokwe Lumumba, y'all got to realize.
I'm talking about the daddy Chokwe.
That's right. He was a firecracker warrior lawyer for a whole lot of us, and the role that the New African Independence Movement, that very particular wing of the Black nationalist community that held on to the question of reparations on the shoulders of the work of the great Queen Mother Moore, is still underappreciated. Chokwe took that tradition right south when he went to Jackson and made that push to actually take some state power to get us some resources to do some other things. But that was that's what he was leveraging when he made that move and did what he did and folks couldn't believe what happened. Chokwe Lumumba, mayor of Jackson, Mississippi, Jackson, Mississippi, the same place that killed Medgar Evers, yes, right.
Well, it was one of the 5 states.
When you never give up and you continue to organize. So those are some. That progression of struggle is something to really appreciate. And Donna, you lifted up Fannie Lou Hamer when Nkechi was talking about being banned, right?
She was right here. Yeah, she was here in New Jersey in Atlantic City. That's right.
That's right, right. But Chokwe used to refer to himself as a Fannie Lou Hamer Democrat when he was rolling down in Jackson on the electoral front, lifting that whole tradition up because, that's Mississippi. That's where she was from. She was from Sunflower County, Mississippi. So I just wanted to bring that together. So let's talk about it in the few minutes that we have left, right? What are some of the things in front of us on the question of reparations that we need to be looking at? We need to be building on, right? Jersey, we're rolling. We do have this bill that we're getting pushed locally.
I'm in an interview.
I just thought so you were on the lawn and they having hearings over here. They having the hearings somewhere and you over the lawn doing Juneteenth. That had to be and they shut that. Okay.
They
didn't shut down, but it was only a tour on January 6th.
Right.
And they got that on.
Hello. I mean, and we had a permit. I mean,
it was a dust up, according to Jack Del Rio. It was just a dust up, little dust up.
Yeah, dust up.
It's really. I mean,
can't make this stuff up.
I think that makes us feel. I mean, when you see all of that footage about that insurrection, that coup, when you see all of that footage, and then we think about George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor, and the list just goes on and on. When you know, I mean, it's like, are we fools or what? I mean, it's like,
somebody at our rally today said, you know, America ought to be thankful. It was probably, it might have been Red, that we ought to be thankful that that for some reason our folks still love this country more than everybody else does, and that we've been faithful,
Yeah.
we've been loyal, we've been democratic, and we've been all these pretty sounding things that they say civilians ought to be. You know, when you know, if we were fully in our angry right mind, we might do something else. Like burn
and that's
this
their
whole thing
biggest
down.
fear. That's their biggest fear,
You know?
that they're gonna do, that we're gonna do to them.
exactly.
That's
That
their
is
biggest
their
fear.
That is their
We
fear.
have a black
And I'm
planet.
remembering those 20-something plus black ministers in the South who sat down with General Sherman after the Civil War, where he was saying, well, what do you all want? And they said, we want land. And that's where the 40 acres came from.
That's
and
right.
then General
That's right.
Sherman asked, well, do you want to join us, meaning the white people, the white nation, or do you want to be off to yourselves separate? They said, we want to be by ourselves. They wanted the land.
Leave us the F alone. That's what they're saying.
Yeah, so we can build and develop our own. So what happened though? First of all, we didn't get the land. It was stripped away by Andrew Johnson after the assassination of Lincoln. And we did not get to go our own way. What they did was 2.5 years later, they passed the 14th Amendment that took away our international rights to self-determination to determine what we wanted as our political destiny, as our political future, and said that your only option is that of a United States citizen. But they never, ever, ever did anything to seek to make that citizenship real, even all the way down to this day when we're fighting just to be able to maintain the vote, when we're fighting just to be able to have true history, you know, taught in the schools. I mean, look, you know, what if we had been able to have reparations at that particular time and have been able to go off to ourselves? It was a lot of land that wasn't settled. In fact, the Homestead Act gave land to other folk who came over.
Sure did. A whole lot of folks and a whole lot of land.
Yeah.
Chairman, you know, when chairmen start talking about the 40 acres and the mule, and you start talking about how they was out there, chairman, with the measuring stick, and then everything stopped. And you know, when you do your talk about the 40 acres and the mule and how it didn't go forward, but and even when Dr. King when you talk about pull up by the bootstraps, well, that's not a fair conversation for you to take to us, because what did he say when you never had boots? You know, I love that. Yeah,
bootstraps.
That's right.
Right, sister. Mm-hmm. Yep, you're right.
I was grabbed immediately when I was reading your book. It's funny because it's like weird, like seeing you now and meet you in print first. And you kind of tell some
TED Talk too, Chris. You got to check that out.
Yeah. I can only imagine. But so one of the things that kind of leapt out at me while I was reading the book was the way you connect the blood and guts autobiography of how you come to racial consciousness with the kind of actions that you actually take as an attorney. And it's funny because in my mind, like I think about Charles Ogletree, and if there was a book that I would kind of compare Black Power, Black Lawyer to, it's probably Derek Bell's book.
Thank you. Wow.
the Life of an Ardent Protester. Mm-hmm. I think how you connect what you've done and how you came to consciousness, even from like ancestral practices of talismans and particular white people being particular white at particular times in your youth. If you could just talk like a little bit about how that inspired your reparations work, because I think that's kind of important for me, like thinking about it generationally. So how did those things kind of push you into the reparations movement?
Yeah,
in the 3 minutes you got left, and the 3 minutes you got left, and notice I didn't ask that question because y'all, that was a Donna question.
Because actually, if you look at my TED Talk, it's on YouTube. Nkechi Taifa TED Talk Reparations. It'll come up. I talk a little bit about that because I'm a teenager. I'm 16 years old, selling Black Panther newspapers on the streets of Washington, D.C. And I open up the paper to its 10-point program, what we believe. And point number 3, talking about payback. Okay. And that's when I first learned about reparations. And it just had such an impact on me. It influenced just about everything that I did in life and the various movements that I became a part of, and even to the fact of becoming a lawyer, because I wanted to be taken seriously for all the things I was being talking about. And I figured having some little initials behind my name might in fact do that. And even though it's taken decades, I am beginning to be taken seriously now. The 2020 candidates are talking about reparations. Reparations is indeed an issue whose time has come. And political prisoners, as Brother Zaid knows, we were just able to free Sundiata. We brought other people home as well. Hopefully Matulu will be next. Mumia will be next, you know, and the list goes on. So reparations and sitting at the feet of elders, Queen Mother More, Mari, Obadeli, Chokwe, Lumumba, and many, many more helped to shape me into the person I am today.
Yeah, that was beautiful to behold too. I'm just watching you blow up like that has been something very important to a lot of us, my queen. I got to say that, right? And y'all should have seen a little while ago, and I've had Jihad on to talk about the tribunal, right? But Jihad was the the organizer representing the warriors, but out of the warrior lawyers, it was Nkechi driving that work, and she was our lead prosecutor for the tribunal that we did back in October.
People's attorney, I called it.
Go ahead, make it plain.
Chief People's Attorney or Chief People's Counsel. That prosecutor. I just had a hard time being called the chief prosecutor. But essentially, that's what I was, because we put the United States on trial. Charging them with genocide.
Spirit of Mandela.
She ain't no police.
Google that. The decision was the full decision was published on Malcolm's birthday, May 19. I had one of the judges with us in Harlem on May 19th, a rough young sister from South Africa, Sister Mumse, rough young sister. She wants to come back just to get down with us some more, right? So we're moving on a lot of fronts, right? A lot of this stuff is not front page stuff in places that we would like to see it yet. But who would have thought? Not even 5 years ago did we think that we would have white folks and Japanese folks and Jewish folks, actually rallying with Black folks for reparations in places
and
like
they are.
And Boston, and like how we did the last 2 Juneteenth right here in Jersey. But it's happening.
Yeah.
But just
happening. Right? And we have to pay attention to those things that we must do to continue to make sure that motion continues to move forward.
I'm from Baltimore, so I appreciate the mambo sauce. I understand. And I will travel to get my book signed. I will travel to get my book signed.
My brother, thank you so very much.
I will travel.
I love you all. I know I'm in another meeting right now at the same time too.
She's splitting.
Well, and Nkechi, you gotta let us know what you listening to. What hip hop artists, group or individual?
Before. Wait a minute, it's not hip hop. Actually, there's a reparations song that just came out by a group called Common Hymnals. Listen to it. I mean, not listen to it. Listen out for it. It is hot, and it's hip hop, rap, all up in it, along with the choir, and it's bad. It's dealing with HR 40 and reparations. So be on the lookout for it. It just dropped yesterday.
Who is it?
It's a song reparations. The group is called
Common. You say Common Hymnals or Common?
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Common Hymnals, something like that.
Common.
Are they on the feed?
They will be. My understanding is it just dropped. It'll be on Spotify and all the other stuff coming up real soon.
Okay, so we gotta look out for it. Okay.
Be on the lookout for it. This heavy.
And before you leave, we see that Biden has named the former mayor of Atlanta. He's brought on the former mayor of Atlanta. So watch out for her down there in DC. I just see that Biden hired her. So now we know why she didn't go for re-election.
I got you.
Brought her to DC.
And see, I haven't even listened to the news the past couple of days. I was what's going on.
Yeah, we were swamped. Yeah, the last 2 days we were all swamped. Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, my queen. Good to have you. You know, you got a mic here anytime you need it. All right.
I appreciate it, and I love you all. I'm waiting for New Jersey to be next, y'all.
Right on. That's right. That's the next move. We got to beat on these pump Democrats out here, though.
Yeah. Okay. Peace and blessings.
All right,
Free to land, everyone. Okay,
all right.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
So Mayor Last Keats Bottom goes to Atlanta, goes to DC. How about that? So
what post is she taking?
Biden names her. I sent it out as former as a senior advisor. He names her as a senior advisor.
That's the one who was in charge of a black city, but said that she couldn't stop the police from. Never mind. That's cool. Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Look at Larry's chairman's face.
Your cynicism is well taken, son.
Oh, okay. Where is DJ Rhino?
That's one of Donna's friends, though. So we're gonna be cool.
Where is DJ Rhino?
While we're waiting on Rhino's paying attention. He just needs to chime in because he's been all up in the chat, right? We got Hakeem, we got Chris. We can talk about anything we want.
And Hakeem, we see that. I was gonna bring it up earlier, but Biggie's and Rhino's gonna talk about Biggie's DJ has gone on to glory. Hakeem.
50 grand.
Oh,
yeah.
That's fair. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They just reach 50 land.
Yeah. And happy Father's Day to all of you. For those fathers to be, fathers that are on here. Happy Father's Day to you all. But so do we know why? How old was he? How did we lose him? Do we know yet?
No, I know he's. I interviewed Mr. C on my platform a few weeks ago, and if people don't know DJ Mr. C from Hot 97. Now he's over at Rock the Bells. He's accredited with discovering Biggie. Mr. C is Big Daddy Kane's first DJ. And him and 50 Grand grew up together, so they're in the same generation. C, I think, is 55, 56. So I want to say DJ Grand, 50 Grand was about the same, 55, 56.
Okay.
Yeah, in that area.
So that class is that 60, born in 67. Like, that's that's time. Our bodies are changing. You got to pay attention, and it's just, you go from thinking you're gonna be 18 forever to realize you're not gonna be 18 forever.
Yeah, and all the damage we do to ourselves growing up in our teens, 20s, and 30s. The habits, the bad habits we develop. It's hard to shake them, to reverse the damage. But we salute him and we honor him. Yeah, salute and honor him, and for helping to give us the notorious B.I.G. One of the most profound lyricists we've had in the culture, in the game.
He said that first. Was that the one where you see in the movie where they presented it with the Big Mac, and that was the Whopper. It was like the Big Mac, and that was Biggie.
Well, that was a marketing plan. I don't know who created the marketing plan, but executed by Bad Boy Entertainment, Puff Daddy, Sean Combs. That's after DJ Grand put the mixtape together, the demo tape with Biggie, got it to Mr. C. Mr. C got it to Matty C over at The Source. They do the, Who's Next article in The Source magazine, which kind of created the anticipation around Big. Big ends up getting discovered through that, he's discovered by Puffy while he was at Uptown Records. Andre Harrell fires Puffy, lets Puffy take the Big project with him over to that would be Clive Davis. I don't know if that was it. With Arista.
Yeah.
Then the marketing campaign was Craig Mack, which was Puffy's first rap artist, and then Biggie together. That was a brilliant marketing plan.
Yeah.
The Big Mac. And they put it in a hamburger container with bun, lettuce, and the cassette tape as the burger. And you get the what is this? It's a hamburger. You open it up. It's a bun, lettuce, and then you got the cassette tape. You put it in, and I say it set New York off. Set New York
Flavor in your
off.
ear.
Big man. And Puff with all his energy. They always they used to hate Puff and his energy. They used to talk about Puff and all that. Like you got DJs. What they say? What they used to say?
You don't want the D1 to go all up in your videos. That she'll get the Source Awards.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That was Diddy's style though, man. He came in like that, you know. He was He came in like that, so.
It was about him and his energy, and everything else was just, you know, in addition to what he was bringing to the game as a character and image, and a mogul. You know, he was a young mogul back then.
One of the first moguls.
They went to those HBCUs and just went all down to the HBCUs and was doing the thing, and that bit and the young man that portrayed Puffy in the movie, he really did him some justice. It was, you know, just to
Derek
see.
Luca.
Yeah, it was really just to see with the body movements and all of
Derek
that.
Luca's a very good actor.
And then you just seen recently at somewhere, you just seen a video that went viral with Puffy and Mary J doing their dance moves and everything. And everybody, that thing went viral. Yeah, it was funny.
That's because you can feel the vibe of their relationship, because you could tell back in those days when Mary and Diddy was together, they had a lot of fun. You know what I'm saying? They had a lot of fun doing that music and you know, just hanging out and bugging out together. So when you saw that video, it just brought you to that, you know, to that era when, you know, they were together doing stuff.
Yeah.
All right, Rhino, with the Black Panther T-shirt, I was very purpose with my T-shirt with Music City Festival, because this is Music Month, so Black Music Month. So I was very purpose with my T-shirt there, but I'm loving that Black Panther T-shirt. That is nice.
Well, speaking of Black Music Month, and being that it's also Juneteenth and Father's Day on Sunday, tomorrow I'm doing a set, basically you know, it's like a Father's Day set, but Zaire, I know you're a busy brother. You're doing a lot of work for the people. But if you can, and if not, I'll send it to you. But if you can tune in, I'm doing a set tomorrow from 3 to 6 on Twitch. You know, the usual, the shake up. But I'm going in and I'm playing a lot of fusion and funk. I'm doing fusion and funk because that was my dad's thing. You know what I'm saying? He was the one that schooled me on fusion jazz and funk music. You know what I'm saying? And you know, so I'm going to go into that vibe tomorrow for tomorrow's set on the shake up at 3 p.m.
And put a little of that DC music in there, because I think that DC music is kind of fusion and funk. That's what I think. The DC music, the DC Baltimore.
Blackbirds.
Yeah, go. Yeah.
Yeah, Blackbirds are hot too.
Most definitely. Most definitely. And you know, my wife from DC, so you know.
Oh, really? I didn't realize that.
All the best people in the world are from the DMV. Y'all don't know that?
The Baltimore.
Attica City.
I was born in DC.
No, he said DC. He ain't say bad. He ain't say Baltimore.
Listen, we understand, you know, it's okay, you know. The mayor had to come down to my area to get the contract. It's okay. We ain't gonna bring up the facts. It's cool, leave y'all alone. You know, it's all right. You know, it's okay. You know, it's all right.
Lots going on in B.
Look, the thing. First of all, if y'all have not heard Hakeem Green on Son of God.
Oh man, Hakeem's been dropping some gems.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for that Aubrey.
I can't been putting them on my NAVC page.
Oh, Rhino.
I don't know if you heard. Hakeem has called. He's joining us right. Rhino, I don't know if you heard. Hakeem is joining us with COVID, so we want to give him a big.
I heard.
Yeah. Okay.
Blessings to you, brother, man. Much healing power to you.
Thank you.
You know what I'm saying?
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Definitely. You and your family.
Listen, when I heard Son of God, I was like, this is different.
Yeah, you know, it's for a select group of folks. You know, that's not for everybody.
Right.
That's for us.
And that's why it was good that it was the last song on there, man.
No, actually, it's not the last song. Can I Eat is the last song.
See, I got mine in a different order for some reason.
Yeah. The order is New York Rap, Then and Now, Love and Hip Hop, Son of God, Can I Eat.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I think in my lineup, I think Can I Eat is like second or third or something like that.
But you know, But you know what I was talking to Rhino earlier, and so I was thinking about what we were talking about for the hip hop segment. I don't know how many of y'all are aware, but there's a huge, they're calling it a hip hop trial in Atlanta with the YSL crew. We call them a crew because you know there's a lot of things associated with that term right now, and with that group right now. But basically, the major thing that I think is exportable that we can probably unpack a bunch is there has been a move on social media and on a lot of music platforms, etc., to the hashtag Protect Black Art. And so there's been a huge push for people like Jay-Z and Meek Mill and several other people, T.I. and all of that, to not have lyrics be able to be used in court. I want to say in about 2007, an attorney, this is when I knew it was in a rough place. An attorney was using the lyrics of 99 Problems to explain the law, the laws around search and seizure. And when I started seeing that kind of stuff being academically published, I knew we had a question. So I guess for me, sort of, where do you all stand on that? Kevin Lyle.
Can I hop in? Can I hop in?
For sure.
Because I gotta go. But
Go ahead.
So in 1997, I had a meeting at Def Jam Records with Todd Moskowitz, who's an old friend of mine. We were in between deals, and Todd invited us to come up to present the new music we were trying to get a deal for. Took the meeting with Todd at Def Jam. We played him our stuff, and he was vibing to it. And after he listened to it, he looked at us and said, "Ha, tough. You know, I'm really feeling this, but you know, you guys aren't locking down the block. You guys aren't, you know, really street enough." Now, mind you, at the time, I'm like one of the biggest herb dealers in New York City. Like, I got every record label in the headlock with the weed. When it come to hustling, every day I'm hustling. Every day I'm hustling. The weed, though. Right. So we're looking at Todd like, what are you talking about? It don't make sense. This is Def Jam. This is a flagship record label responsible for P.E., LL Cool J, all the great rap artists that influenced me. How are you telling me we're not street enough? Time goes on and I look around, I see Rockefeller Records, I see Murder Inc., I see Bloodline, I see the groups that Def Jam is putting out have the essence, the imagery of drug dealers, thugs, and gangsterism. So in 2004, I put out a song called Still Building. I was at a label and the man implied that if I didn't sell drugs, I wouldn't get signed. He said I didn't look like I was locking the block and that his whole rap roster was chopping the rock. Crack got our people insane while we commercialize the drug and sell them the pain. Everything we spit goes right to the brain, and now your little brother out there selling your chain. That's like Judas going out like a dry snitching on wax in court, plead the fifth. Dry snitching on wax in court, plead the fifth. Dry snitching on wax in court, plead the fifth. Todd Moskowitz, I think, is the president of 300 Entertainment, which puts out Young Thug's music. Todd Moskowitz is co-creator of Asylum Records, really the birthplace label-wise of trap music. Todd Moskowitz is the godfather of Leor Cohen's kid. Todd Moskowitz and Leor Cohen have an image of what Black people are. And if you don't fit their image of what Black people are, they're not going to put you out. They're not going to promote you. So again, when I see these different rap artists with this certain message that they pushing, and I understand what's good, like 20 years ago, I was telling folks, they're going to use your rap lyrics to indict you. They're going to use your rap lyrics as evidence to build cases around you. But nobody's trying to hear that. No, you're going over people's heads. You too conscious, Hakeem. You too political. People don't want to hear that. And here we are.
I should say y'all curse too much.
And you know what, Hakeem? You even did it in your presentation tonight, how we have to go in rooms and we have to be what we need to be in that room. And your voice even did it in here when you said you went into the meeting and he said, and how your levels said. So we are what we need to be in the room we're in. So, and that's something that but it's funny that nobody could ever tell a Jewish young person what they should look like or what they should be. That's interesting.
Right. And I'm glad Jay-Z is where he's at, but it's interesting that Jay-Z is leading the charge. Jay-Z's not gonna, like when I saw Kevin Liles on the stand testifying for Young Thug, I was like, you're dumb, Kevin. Why would you do that? You're falling on the sword. They're setting you up to take the hit. Why? Because it's RICO, which means we can take people who aren't really connected to the crime, lump them all together so we can get the boss, we can get the kingpin, we can get the, right? So when Kevin said that he backed Young Thug personally and professionally, I'm like, bro, God forbid you're in an email thread or someone put you in a studio where you knew of a crime and didn't report it, or you financed the music promoting a crime, or you financed the music calling for a hit, or you financed the, because that's what, as the record label, you're financing the music, but if the music's tied to criminal behavior, you're financing criminal behavior. Damn. So, like, and I know Kevin, respect Kevin. That was a bad look, man. That was a bad look, but I didn't see Todd Moskowitz. I didn't see Leo Cohen. They're not going to take the stand. And, again, a lot of these rappers out here just living out the fantasies of these white folks, these Ashkenazi Jews.
Right.
That's all. That's why they get financed. That's why they get backing. That's why they get marketing promotion. That's why we're told that this is the standard, or this is the model, or this is what the people want to hear. You got white people telling us this is what our people want to hear. Now, when we get, it's 2022, you're getting the after effects of 15, 20, 30 years of an investment of a certain archetype. And we've accepted it as this is the thing. No, this is the thing that somebody outside of your community told you it was. It's not that it was the thing, or it is the thing, or we should be lifting these artists up and their messages up as something. It's it's the 52 fake out, and we go for it hook, line, and sinker every time.
Living in its time, image making has become a science, Malcolm said. And of course, Chuck D asked that prophetic question of waxing on the black wax. Who stole the soul, baby? Who stole the soul?
That's why Love and Hip Hop.
Come on.
Yeah. Love and Hip Hop. Who stole? Universal stole the soul. Is it Love and Hip Hop or just pimps and hoes?
Yeah. But I was listening to Gil Scott Heron's B movie. Right, and he's talking about the creation, the image creation, and all of that. So the thing that I think is the distinction for me is this. And I think it was an interesting way it kind of got discussed for me is nobody's gonna ever say that Martin Scorsese is actually interested in actual crime. Nobody's gonna take the Godfather movie and take it to court and use it as evidence against the people who made the film.
No, that's not true. All right, so one, allegedly, Young Thug and them's out there committing crimes. They out there putting hits on people. Like, that's really going down. One, right? But when you look at the Godfather movie, and if you know the historical context in which the Godfather is talking about, they're talking about real life crimes with people who got real life sentences and got murdered and like that, all that stuff really happened, but we're presenting it to you out like we're not actually involved in the commission of crimes.
Right.
Young Thug and them is actually committing crimes.
Allegedly. All
right. Allegedly. All right. But in the world of Hollywood isn't built on keeping it real. Al Pacino's not expected to keep it real. Young Thug is expected to keep it real. Todd Moskowitz, these people expect these rappers to be keeping it real. You have to really be the guy in the street. You got to really be, and for the dollar, I'll put the costume on. And that's all Young Thug is doing. So you guys, folks who are coming up out of certain conditions, coming from certain environments, you know, criminal activity and criminal culture is really all you know for a bunch of different reasons that's not based on the individual choice. I get all that. But when we're, as a record label, as a financial institution, going to come in and finance your criminal activity, finance your imagery that promotes criminal activity, you know, if you want to tell a story and you want to be artistic and you want to, that's one thing. If you want to, like the brother last week who got raps about robbing ATMs out of town and got arrested because he was robbing ATMs out of town, like he was really doing it. And you dumb enough to tell on yourself, dry snitching on wax. Bro, I mean, like I lived through the 80s, bro. We was terrorized in the 80s, man. We was terrorized. So when the 1994 crime bill came through, which wrecked our community even more, well, what else was we gonna do?
Joe Biden.
They had to go. They had to go. I'm sorry, they had to go. They had to go. Get rid of these fools. Come get them. Grandma can't walk down the street. The kids can't make it to school. The kids, you know, like, are we supposed to just let the thugs and the criminals run around and be thugs and criminals and terrorize our community? They gotta go.
Hey, too, Brute. Oh Lord, I can't believe. So you was good with the 94 crime bill? Am I hearing this right? Make sure my mic works.
It's not that I was good with the 94 crime bill. I know there was a lot left out of the crime bill, but I also know that the 94 crime bill was the result of a very conservative push as you know, to go against the civil rights movement and the advances that our communities made in the 60s and the 70s. You know, then you get Nixon in. Nixon with his stuff got kicked out of there. Jimmy Carter comes in. That was just like a holdover until we can get this fool Ronald Reagan and Bush, and they came with the crack cocaine epidemic. And I'm sorry, too many of our people participated. Like too many of my friends and family members participated in destructive behavior. What are we gonna do?
Willingly.
Like, you know, you got the social equity programs, you got the after school programs. You know, I created Act Now back in 1988, 89, trying to reach a lot of these folks. I'm sorry, the drug dealers didn't want to come to my class. So what are we gonna do?
So you good with the crime bill?
No, what are we gonna do? No, it's not that I'm good with the crime bill, but at that point in 1992, 3 and 4, what were we gonna do?
Damn.
What were we gonna do? Nothing.
And if y'all are hearing the sound effects from Chairman Ham with the Dam and Zaid with the Joe Bidens.
I'm not saying like we
Bill
like,
Clinton and Joe Biden, not just Joe Biden.
It's Bill Clinton and Joe Biden. We know the climate of politics in America on the national scene. Democrats were not going to get the president seats unless they can prove to the conservative tone of the nation that they could be tough on crime like the Republicans.
And the black caucus supported the crime bill.
Thank you. And that's what I was about to say. And our people supported the crime bill because we had very few ways of dealing with the level of crime and violence in the street in the 80s, man. It was, I mean, we think it's bad now. It was bad, bro.
It was bad. Yes, it was.
It was bad.
And they came at our generation because we were the children of the 60s. And we
were
making those international links with the anti-apartheid.
Hey, Hakeem, when I got home from school in 1980, the first newspaper I picked up, the Star Ledger, the morning after I had moved my stuff from Princeton back to Newark, there was an article in the paper where the head of the Vailsburg Block Association was calling for the National Guard to come in and police the West Ward of Newark.
And Chairman, and the same thing was going in Orange. It was going on all our community meetings. Bring the National Guard, and it was the elders asking the Joe D's that was just coming on the scene to bring the National Guard in. Because I can remember my mother doing a meeting, and Congressman Payne Sr. brought Joe D to my house to introduce him as the next person on the scene. And the elders in our community was asking what Joe D was saying, well, what can I do for you? And the elders was saying, bring a National Guard. And we was like, wait, what?
That was the answer? That's the answer?
I mean, in 1992, unfortunately, right. Unfortunately, Chris, in terms of resources and organized ways of fighting the level of crime and violence at that time, it just didn't exist. Like in 2022, with all that we know, all the experiences we've gone through, the education that we've garnered, the coalitions we've built over the last, we know there are other strategies and other ways of dealing with violence and crime. But in 1991, 92, 93, we weren't there. I was, a teenager, young 20-something. I wasn't there. I didn't, I was learning up under Baba Zayed. I was going to campaign to free Black political prisoners, prisoners of war, the tribunal, to bring America up on charges of human rights violations. That's what my focus was. But, majority of my friends, that's not where their focus was. Their focus was on NWA and slinging crack and get this money. And that's what their mind was. I'm talking to them. I'm the Sharif in the hood. Yo, don't you know you destroying the community? We got to do better. We join this organization. We got to get it. And I was the laughing joke. We got to keep grandma safe. Kids is dying. Grandparents is dying for real.
Well, Hakeem and DJ Rhino, this is the hip hop hour. It's 9:00 and we got to wind up. So what's the last words that how are you guys going to close us out with this conversation that we obviously need to take to an hour segment?
Well, Demon, you got to close out.
We just need to go to another episode.
Chris's mind right now is fried, but you had to be there to really understand what's being said.
That's a lot.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, duly noted. Got it. Click, click, click. Got it. Put y'all picture right up there. No wonder we rocking them girls and chucks for. We know it. Yes, I get it. Appreciate it. Good to know.
You had to be there, bro. You had to be there. I'm watching my relatives getting strung out on crack cocaine, and their friends are selling it to them. Their mother is selling it to them.
Damn.
People selling it to their moms.
People selling it to their moms.
And that sounds like the 10 Crack Commandments. And we're going to close out on 9:02. It's 9:02.
Salute, y'all.
And Riley in the back going like this. And Chairman is saying, damn. And DJ Rhino saying, we got to go to another episode. Yeah. So happy Father's Day.
Real quick.
Go ahead, Rhino.
Real quick, I want to say happy born to Kendrick Lamar. It's his born day today. Also, I want to say congratulations to Do It All Do Pre Kelly.
Yes.
For getting that win.
Showed up today too.
West Ward Council. You know what I'm saying? So, and that's it. Big ups to the DOC. The DOC is back. Watch out for a documentary. Erykah Badu is supposed to be executive producing the documentary on the DOC, and he's back on the scene. He's doing stuff. So that's what's up.
Yesterday was Pac's birthday. Not tomorrow.
That's
Sunday,
right. Pac's birthday yesterday.
Juneteenth and reparations.
Chairman,
12 o'clock.
What's your last word, Chairman? What's your last word,
This
Chairman?
ain't really life. Ain't really life. It really ain't nothing but a movie. That's big movie, Gil Scott Heron. This ain't nothing but a movie.
Yeah,
all right, y'all. The only thing I gotta say is Happy Father's Day, and thank you guys for this strong. This was a strong Father's Day. Juneteenth, June 16th to June 19th, and it's going to still be going on because the federal is representing it on Monday. So this is a long weekend that we can reflect. So Ed, take us out.
Charleston 9 massacre martyrs. Pac's birthday was yesterday. Right on.
Yes, sir.
Ed, Ed, you gotta come off of you gotta put your mic on, Ed.
All right. So what I would say is we just want to thank all of our guests. Obviously, we want to thank the mayor for coming through. Always when he comes through and he only got 30 minutes. I told you from the beginning, Zaid, I said we had to hold that mule, right?
Yes, right.
Because I know once he got started, he was gonna go off, man. But I appreciate him dropping some of the things he dropped. I mean, obviously there are a couple of things we didn't know that a couple of the fights we need to get in. And so again, we appreciate all of the guests. Larry, appreciate you coming through, hanging with us, man, at the last minute. Appreciate that.
And thanks, Mayor, for showing up for the day, because the city of Newark was closed today, but he showed up today.
Yeah.
Thank him.
And Zaid, you can thank the other people that came on too, man.
Joe Marchica and Matt Dragon from Our Revolution, bringing that science on the whole question of the fight to remove the party line, right, to make elections more democratic. We say right on to that. And of course, Nkechi Taifa, our warrior lawyer for reparations. It really was a pleasure to watch her come of age in that struggle. I'm very much a witness to that. I'm just a couple of years younger than Nkechi. We had that we grew up under that leadership that she's talking about it. And she's been in a very important role as this movement moves into the interracial space as we really try and build this thing out to win this thing. Right on.
So we appreciate everybody for coming on. We'll be on next week. Next week is the Disciples, and so we're gonna have a special guest on with them as well next week. And we'll probably drop that out on the Facebook page, let y'all know who that is. So we thank y'all so much. This is all Politics are Local, America's number one political hip hop radio talk show. We'll see y'all next week.
And you don't stop.
Peace.